Welcome to this episode of The Weigh-In, where we talk to content creators, bait makers, and industry insiders. This episode's brought to you by our fine sponsors, Big Al Speed Shine. You can find all their products at BigAlSpeedShine.com. Spray it on, wipe it off, done. Deep gloss, slick finish, big shine. Big Al Speed Shine, slick it up. FCLX. FCLX is a specialized extinguishing agent designed to tackle complex lithium-ion battery fires and conveniently packaged for use in boats, side-by-sides, campers, and homes. Proudly made in the USA, FCLX penetrates the battery during thermal runaway, rapidly cooling the fire and preventing reignition. The FCLX agent interrupts the lithium oxidation process that fuels the fire while neutralizing the harmful gases. Get yours today at FullCircleLithium.com. Now, let's get ready to weigh in.
Boom. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Monday night episode of The Weigh-In. Got a familiar face in the crowd here. Got Mr. Tim McGuire with us. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. I appreciate you helping me out tonight. We're going to talk a little bit of stuff tonight, but we've got a guest that's supposed to come on about 9:30. He won't do the last 30 minutes, and I needed some help tonight with a guest. So Tim jumped on. I appreciate it, dude.
Anytime.
I know it. Hopefully we can put together an hour and a half of something to talk about, and then we can get into that last 30 minutes with Mr. Vinson, and we can talk about some fishing over at Logan Martin, because he put on a hammer fest there that last day and dropped a bag on him. So sorry, we got the group chat blowing up, so it's dinging off my phone, off the computer. It's all everywhere. So if y'all hear dinging, that's what's going on with it.
Yeah. We found something funny today. I think Tony and I picked up on it pretty quick.
I'm gonna have to mute this thing for like an hour. I'm gonna mute it for an hour. We'll see. Let's see if we do that so it doesn't ding on the computer. But anyway, guys, thanks for stopping in. We got Coleman Jones in the chat, Doug Rice, Eddie Hudson, Jeff Brazil. Last time with Diaz. What's going on, buddy? Diaz, Big Al Speed Shine. Tim's in the chat. Robert Brazil, Nathan Edwards. Y'all do. We appreciate y'all stopping by to talk. Listen, we're gonna cover a bunch of different stuff. Tim, I know you went fishing. I did a little bit of fishing this weekend. We're gonna talk about some of the stuff that's going on with boater safety, things like that. Obviously, if y'all have seen the news, if you fish East Alabama, West Georgia, North Georgia, you saw the stuff that happened over the weekend. I just kind of felt a little bit compelled to maybe talk on it a little bit. So I'm going to take any constructive, comments, criticisms, debate that we may have in the comments with it, because honestly, some of the stuff we heard from the weekend, I'm just floored, and, you just hate to hear some of the stuff that's happening. I'm not casting judgment on anybody, but a lot of stuff that can be avoided. And, we hear it every holiday season, and stuff, but we're going to talk a little bit of everything, and I guess we'll just start right there with it. Tim, what do you think?
So, worked for me. I mean, there was a lot of boating accidents, probably more than we've even been privy to by the media. Every time I open social media, I see a different lake. It's like a different lake in Georgia or Alabama or wherever. And, I reached out to a state trooper over in Alabama and asked him to be on the show. And of course, he can't have to go through their public division in order to have show. And I completely understand that. I thought it was a shot in the dark. I'm like, you know what? I'll see if I can't get him on. And he's one of the guys that I know. I don't know personally, but I know who he is. I know where he patrols. And I was like,
they call him Marine Police Division or something.
Yeah, they're the we call they're state troopers, but they're the Marine Division, the police division, I guess you say, Marine Patrol, something like that.
Right. And, well, a lot of lakes, other than DNR, you could have U.S. Corps of Engineers Rangers out there. They can write you a citation too.
Yep.
You'll have local sheriff's office. Cherokee County, Georgia, actually has a boat that runs on their side of Alatoona.
Yeah. I mean, and because it's all about funding and what they're responsible for. And if you've got a jurisdiction that's responsible for that particular part of the area, and they get called, they can respond first. They're obviously going to need equipment that they can respond with. So, and Coleman says, I think that's the most boating accidents I've ever seen. I don't know if it's the most I've ever seen, but I know it just hits a little different when you start hearing the types and what they were doing and things like that. We always joke about, it's the wakeboarders, it's the ski boats, it's the jet skis. It's the first one I heard this weekend was a John boat.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 young guys on a John boat. That's the last I heard. Of course, people thought it had something to do with a pontoon boat, and then it come out that it was a John boat with 2 gentlemen on there that hit a stump. I mean, out of all things, on a deep lake, they hit a stump.
Yeah. Where are your PFD while you're moving?
PFD, kill switch, all, you know, and you know, I guess that's, you know, we say it, you know, we say that wear your PFD, wear your kill switch, whatever. I mean, I know Slick Johnson got out there and he talked about kill switch on his channel over the weekend because of Wedowee. It happened on Wedowee, you know, and a lot of that has to do with, I'm not calling Slick out by any means, but it rolls right into something he's been selling for a while now. It's a kill switch. It's the uncoiled version. It's the longer version, because we've all got the junk ones, and you know, we say that stuff and we kind of say it and it kind of goes away. You know, we say it and it kind of goes out of our mind. Where kill switch, but I guess, you know, I put in the discussion board for today, or the post for today. I was like, you know, there's a question I posed on there. I wanted people to think about the comments, you, myself, whatever, we talk about it. Mm-hmm. Folks in the comments, you know, please, again, feel free to talk about it. But, you know, is there something we can do? And I know it's a very vague general question, but there's a reason for that. Is there something we can do to, you know, make the water safer for all of us? And how much do we need to police each other? Because there was an incident yesterday morning. I put in on a lake just for a short period of time. It was before daylight. It was right there at the edge of daylight, but it was still dark enough. And we had a little bit of fog where I was at. Wasn't major. And, you know, they didn't put their lights on. They didn't have the stern light. They didn't have the front light. They didn't have anything. And I hollered. I said, hey, you need to put your lights on, because I'm fixing to put my boat in with lights on. I'm cranking the big motor up. Well, they were running the big motor. And I'm like, of course, I stopped when I said, I thought, man, I just sounded like that guy. I sound like a Karen or a Carl on the boat ramp. But I'm like, you don't know, somebody comes around that corner in a boat and don't see you because you're bow, you know, you're bow into the whatever. Oh, yeah. And then somebody's having to go, hey, well, you know, you heard so and so passed away yesterday in a boat accident on the lake, whatever. You know, I don't know. I just we're quick to judge, but we're also quick to kind of step back and go, not my problem. But you know, one of those things that I
Kevin and I we ran up on several boats with our lights out when we were fishing those night tournaments, which most of the guys on here that run boats and, you know, and do any night tournaments, you know, it takes everybody on board. You've got a driver and a spotter. I mean, if you see something, say something, or reach over and slap them on the shoulder and put your feet, you know, it's right there, you know. Right. Or what the hell is that? I mean, It might not be a little twig in there. It might be somebody on a darn kayak in the middle of the night, or a floaty out there just doing whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's one of those things where if you're in a pocket or a cove and you're tucked up against the bank, okay, I get it. I'm not condoning it, but I get it.
No, but you've at least put some sort of thought into the safety. It's like, I'm going to go over here in this little niche and mind my business and live my best life. You're doing great at that point. But if you're out in the middle of the lake.
Yeah, if I saw that, I'm going to say, well, you know, they're tucked in a cove, they're tucked in a pocket. We can kind of get by, you know, whatever. I mean, that's whatever. But if I come around a bend and you're sitting in the channel and you ain't got a light on, I mean, come on, man. That's just, you know, again, it just bothers me a little bit that we've got that many accidents happen over the weekend. It hit close to home. A lake that I fish in an area that I fish regularly. I know exactly where they were at. I know, from what I understand, what I was told, I know exactly what they hit. I know, you know, it's flooded timber there. You know, I still don't think they've recovered the young man yet, and that's even worse. I've heard that I've talked to a gentleman that and Doug said in the comments, he said, thanks for checking on him. Yeah, I got a text asking if I was on Wedowee, and of course it was no. And then I was like, what's going on? He sent me the link. And then I started texting guys that I know that fish are in that area. So I text Doug. I was like, hey, dude, you good? And he goes, yeah, not on the water. I'm
buddy check time.
So he said, I was off the water by 10. Well, then I've got another friend of mine that actually he stayed in the place in this creek. They got family property in this creek arm where this happened at, or right outside where this happened at. So immediately I thought, crap, I text him, you know, and I heard back from him. He said, dude, because he's taking up catfishing out of a John boat. I'm like, crap, man, what if somebody ran over him while they were out catfishing, you know?
Oh, no, yeah.
It wasn't him. Thank God it wasn't him. I mean, you know, just, again, the fishing community, we all talk about how small the fishing community gets, and it gets smaller day by day. And when something like that happens, it's even more, you know, dang, you know, it's people you know, or people you talk to in the past or something like that. And
I don't think people think. I mean, you got a lot of privileges on the lake. I mean, there's not really a speed limit. You've got your common courtesies, which most of you should have taken your boater safety course and know big boat overtake. You know, get out of the way of the big boats. which way to run channels, what the channel markers mean, color wise, but there's a bigger picture. The one thing you were talking about, like something that could happen, and I know this is very far fetched. What if the U.S. government all of a sudden limited boat motors?
Very possible.
You can have as big a boat as you want with 50 horsepower all day long. Have fun.
Yeah.
That way, all your crashes, you're going slow, so you can avoid everybody. And I'm just threw 50 out there. It could be 80.
Right.
There'll be millions of your tax dollars spent finding out what that perfect horsepower is and speed on a lake.
Yeah.
And then we're all doomed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, a low impact crash, you're less likely to get, if something bad happened or die. You can see each other and avoid. So let's all protect our waters so you can get in your boat and run wide open to your spot in the mornings safely.
Yeah. I mean, and that brings up the age old debate, speed limits, versus horsepower versus whatever. I mean, like you said, you're almost, I'm not for government intervention in
No, neither am I, but I'm just saying it could happen.
The easier way to do it would be to say, okay, nobody can run over an 80 horsepower. Because that's the easier way. Let's face it. Because then you're going, well, you ain't going but X miles per hour. What's going on, Eric? Eric just stopped them in the comments real quick. It'd be easier to police horsepower ratings than it would be to police speed limits. Let's face it. We've both been cops. How many times you sit there and run radar for 2 hours in the same spot? You get 15 people, you leave, and the next thing you know, there's a wreck right there in that area from speed. I mean,
there's one that was like, speed was a factor. It went over the guardrail.
Yep. So, and again, I'm not a fan of that stuff. I did it. I get it. Understand, but I just hate to hear that kind of stuff happening. And
right, and there's no way to set out there and enforce any kind of regulations other than cameras, and people would probably they would vandalize those. So
right, yeah,
but when boats crash, it's bad.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good because I mean the crash is bad, but it's what happens after you I mean, you go in the water and now you've got a secondary.
Right. You get crunched in a car. There's bystanders, and a lot of people they know first aid. There's lots of people have saved people's lives before the fire and EMS guys get on there with all the good stuff.
Absolutely.
But when you're on the water and you're not wearing your little floaty things, you don't pop up. So at least another concerned boater can come find you and drag you out of the water.
Right. Yep. We had a tournament. We had a tournament last year, and of course, our tournament rules are you're supposed to wear your life jacket, you're supposed to wear your kill switch, all that good stuff. And they took a curve in Wadowee and threw them both out of the boat, ejected them both out of the boat. Luckily, they had their life vest on. I don't know if they had their kill switch on or not, but they had their life vest on. And another boater had to come get them out of the water. Everything was fine. So I guess they must have had a kill switch. I don't know, but it was definitely speed. And I know where it happened at. It's a bad curve. There's no way they should have been going, real fast. But we got to get there.
I always slow down and even trim down, make sure that thing sticks. And if it starts sliding, you start backing off, and it's your helicopter flying in. You got you trim down, foot back, keep stuck in that curve.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not worth spinning.
Yeah, Jeff go ahead.
I don't know if anybody, Mark Daniels Jr., if you saw one of his latest videos, he knocked the entire lower unit off a Mercury 250. I mean, like,
sheared it off. Yeah.
And thank God they decelerated quite a bit before it blew out, but it still could have thrown the Marshall out easier than him.
Oh, 100%.
Because he was hanging on to the handles.
Yeah, them little grab handles got a couple bolts in it. That's about it. And then putting my whole life in
you put enough static shock to them, you'll have a handle in your hand flying across the water.
Exactly. Yeah, Doug said he was up there on Wadowee when all that happened. It was a crazy story. Hate to see somebody lost their life. Don't really know the whole story. Yeah, we're waiting to hear everything. I've just heard bits and pieces from it. I've talked to somebody who actually has that guy that has a place up there, his family place up there, and they saw the gentleman running that boat all day long. They were running that John boat back and forth all day. So it was definitely a John boat, and it was definitely two gentlemen in that boat. I just don't know what else happened there. But some of these lakes we don't pay attention to. Our folks don't get on them during the wintertime. They draw that water down. You can see what's just under the water, and there's a lot of standing timber on Wadowee that is just under the surface of full pool. So you run along what you think's a bluff wall. It's a bluff wall, but there's standing timber up to the bottom of that water right there, and you catch a lower unit on it, it's going to sling you out. So
right, because most lakes weren't designed for fishing and boating. They're potable water, or they're water resources. So they just cut the timber off at a certain thing, and know that once the lake's at full pool or low pool, I mean,
that's right.
You come skating along through there at Mount Jesus and hit one of them things, and I don't know what's going to happen to you.
And there's been places down there I've fished in. Hunter's Bend, as on the south end, is one of the big ones I fished in a couple of years ago. And in winter pool, you got standing timber on one side that's visible, and on the other side, you got a clear channel that you can run in, minus the points that come out. You got to kind of zigzag through. Well, then somebody decided at wintertime they were going to trim the timber down just below the water surface at wintertime. So now you got what looks like a completely wide channel to run in, but really you've only got about 30 foot that you can get in.
Yeah.
And the rest of it you got to be off of. So, but
I found a big protrusion on that last tournament that we all did on Lanier. I went skating up the Chestatee, and I told the guy ride with me. I remembered running up there. I said, "We're fixing to run out of water. I'm gonna sit down in a minute." All of a sudden, I caught a quick glimpse, and it was yay big around.
Yeah,
poking up about that big, and he saw it when I jerked the steering wheel.
Yeah,
and I guarantee it missed my boat by yay much.
Don't take but just a second, man. Well, when it came out about the accident on Wedowee, I had fished the Sunday before, and running up the big river, the Tallapoosa River, there was a lot of trash, and I don't know why we hadn't gotten a whole lot of rain, but I guess it just finally, made its way
loose or whatever.
Yeah, and it was in like in between like bends in the river, so it was in the straightaways basically. But it was pretty good sized logs and stuff there. And of course, by midday, the wind picks up, the stuff floats away. But I hit something coming back out of there, and of course, I heard it. It was like an old log or something. I heard it buzzed right through it, but it kind of jarred the boat enough to make me go, "Oh, I just hit something," But I was I'm running the middle of the channel. I'm not getting on the edges up there. But yes, that first thought was I was like, "Dang, they probably hit some of that floating debris that's been floating through there." But
I skated around what looked like a darn railroad cross tie up here in the Coosa, right about the Alabama line one time.
Yeah,
it was like right at the surface, and all of a sudden I saw something. And I thought, "Oh, it's just a little stick," and then the whole thing came up, and I was like, "Oh no!"
Yeah, it's not a little stick.
It's little sticks will blow right around.
It's a little stick with a tree attached to it.
Cross tie? No.
Yeah, and then Jeff says up in Tennessee River from me a few miles, a skeena teat got loose in marina and tore up several boats. Luckily, I think anyone was injured. Boat was running in circles, unoccupied. It happens, man. It can happen so quick, really. I mean, if you think about it. And that's one thing I had asked my buddy. A lot of these newer boats have them, hot foots. My Ranger doesn't have a hot foot on it. I've never really wanted one because the older Rangers, big boys like myself, those consoles back in the day wasn't made for a lot of equipment on them. They're tight. Right. They're not. So you put a hot foot in there, you're cramped in there trying to get that hot foot to run right. And he was like, "Yeah," but he said, "Unless you're guaranteeing that you're going to wear your life jacket and your kill switch at all times," he said, "that hot foot can save you a world of hurt because you fall out of the boat or you get thrown out of the boat, ejected.
Yeah, it's going to go back to idle.
It goes back to idle." I was like, "Well, that's true." So that's one of the things. I mean, I have done some videos where I'm idling across some lakes and I don't have my stuff on, and I've made a conscious, after somebody called me out in the video, I've made a conscious effort now. I try to make sure I've always got it on and got it tied to the kill switch and all that good stuff. But yeah, just we all make dumb mistakes like that, and thankfully some of us haven't get caught up with it. But I do try to make sure I have that kill switch on if that big motor's running for sure at all times.
I think those motor leash things are great, but
yep, and that's what
that's expensive.
Yeah, Patricia Ann Shaw. If you're not running a leash, I don't know, asking for trouble. Yeah. And I, look, I've never owned one. I know several of my friends have them. It's kind of one of those. It's better to have it on there and never need it kind of thing. And some people I've heard said, "Oh, they're not worth what they're charging. They don't really do what they say they do." Blah blah blah. Look, if they slow that motor down half as much from coming in that boat and chopping you to pieces, I guess 50% is better than nothing. So.
Yeah. I mean, I agree a little bit. They are kind of pricey because it's not something that your average person can say, "Well, I'll go get one of those next paycheck." Yeah. You got to save up for that.
What are they, about $500, $700?
Somewhere along in there.
I don't know.
I'm like, I know it's a good tool, but it's like, come on, guys, the materials that are in that.
you can still make a profit and not, kill everybody.
Well, and the other thing though is if you got a leash on there and it does jump up in the boat, or it still can hurt you, whatever.
It's well worth that money you spend if it saves you or your passenger.
It's worth the money, but let's say you don't have it in the boat, it comes up in the boat with you and does something to you, but you don't die. Well, you've got to figure out how you're going to get back to wherever it is you started from, or get help, because it ain't like, that one, elite angler that had it happen to him up there at the, where was it, that he had the floating stuff underneath the water. Anyway, you get hit. They figured that one out pretty quick. He was able to call somebody or whatever. I mean, it didn't, he had people there close by. If I get out in some of these waters, or we're miles and hours away from some of the folks we know. I mean, so it's worth it.
Sometimes I only know where I'm at because of the map.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
I don't run way off over here somewhere.
I was down at Lay Lake one time. We was using the maps. I was scanning some humps, and I swear this hump said it wasn't that deep. It was deep. I mean, it wasn't shallow. I dragged the skeg right over top of it. Luckily, I was only idling, but I dragged the skeg right over top of it. I'm like, oh, that was shallow. That was way shallower than I thought it was going to be. So it happens.
Clint said they're roughly $400.
$400? Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. And Doug said he saw a guy swimming mid-river in front of Wedowee Marine at just barely daylight. He only had a red head on, and my son saw him before I did. Crazy. So, Doug, is that upriver, or are you talking about the downriver Marine? Because you got Marine South, you got Marine North. Well, I guess it's Wedowee Marine, then Wedowee Marine South, but I'm guessing you're talking about the one on the Little River up north. And if he was swimming out there, that's a no-wake zone in front of the marina, but still kind of crazy. That's crazy. I mean, if you're out there swimming like that. But yeah, that's wild. Let's see what Tom's got to say to start the night here. Tom, you've always got some great comments. Back when elevated seats of new introduced bass boats, my uncle was ejected at night in an accident collision. My dad and Bill Nichols was driving. My dad plucked my uncle up. I heard it. Yeah, it's you don't want to. A real good friend of mine, and he was real good buddies with Kerry, the owner of the dugout, were ejected in a bass tournament at blast off. Luckily, the way it ejected them out of the boat, it didn't break their legs, because had it gone the other way, they would both, at least one of them would have broke their legs, and they had their life jackets on, bobbed up the top. And all the guys were like, holy crap, dude, that was the wildest thing I've ever seen. Just, they got some bad water behind another boat, and it hooked. And when it did, it spun them sideways and threw them both out of the boat. So, Eric says, my leash, my kill switch, my life jacket are three things that are non-negotiable. I agree 100%.
Make that part of, like, when you're getting ready to launch, you're unstrapping your boat and all. I always get both my life jackets out. I got the Mustang auto deployables, but if they were the regular ones,
right,
I set them in the seat. I go ahead and hook the kill switch to the life jacket. Make that part of your prep, as you're getting the boat ready to launch. Don't wait to get out on the water to do it. Just get it ready.
I know it's not something that's particularly safety related, but how many folks running around with insurance on their boat or not insurance on their boat? I know, again, that's not life or death, but what I'm saying is it makes you start thinking about it when you're paying that premium, going, oh, wow, if I hurt somebody on my boat because I didn't make them wear a life jacket or something like that, something to think about.
The insurance companies will nitpick, and they will find every possible way to fault you so they don't have to pay you. So always make sure that you're right, and then it works like it's supposed to.
And Eric's got a good saying that he says when he and I fish together, and it's you've never heard about him picking a deceased person out of the water wearing a life jacket, like a drowned person. So it's a good point. You know what I mean?
Most of the all those years I was a deputy in Bartow, which is the other half of Allatoona, we would respond when those calls will come out, but we're in a car. We could get to the dock or the shore, but Good Samaritan boaters out there, and there's plenty of them. If y'all are watching, God bless you all. Will come to the rescue. They've picked people up, got them to the nearest ramp, or they've dialed 911. Hey, this guy's injured. Where you want me to put him out at?
Yeah.
And we got an ambulance right here. Can you get there? And they run them to us.
Yeah.
But like I said, they were floating, so they could find them. The ones that, hey, I'm going to ride a tube. I can swim, whatever. Those are the ones that unfortunately find days later after some things happen to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's Yeah, it's a shame, man. You know, and we talk about it on Weiss, other lakes where I see them too, but I'm going, if they only knew what was literally right under the surface of the water, they're dragging their kids over. Like, I mean, they come off that tube just right and go under.
There's only a few coves over there. My sister and her family, they have a spot in a big cove, and that's it. It's a large cove, so you can go around in little circles out there and you're fine. But if you go off anywhere else out there,
yeah,
that's like us that grew up fishing wise. It's dangerous at full pool during the regular season.
exactly.
When they draw it down, there ain't no lake.
Yeah, there's no way.
I mean, your lake's gone.
It's moisturized stumps at that point out there.
Yeah, well, yeah, and if you'll go over there and wander around, sometimes you'll actually kind of have a sobering moment because you're like, I've been running right through there this whole time. I didn't know there was a rock size of a Ford pickup truck.
Exactly. I mean, I've only fished there a couple times in the last 20 years, but when I went back, I had mapping. The time I went before, we didn't have mapping. You had a paper map, and you know we had mapping this time. And I run across a place. I'm going, oh, that went from 8 foot to 2 pretty quick. no water.
Yeah, if you're not watching your channel markers and your stuff, you'll go into a very gentle curve, and if you drift a little bit, you'll look down and you're like, we're in 2 feet of water.
Yeah,
it's like don't let out.
Don't let out. Keep going.
Deep water was this way, and hope to God there's not a big stump on the ledge.
Well, you know, you're looking at it going, I want to go fish this little pocket right here, but you got to get out of this channel that you're in. That's like, you know, I'm going to idle over it. No, get on the trolling motor.
There are literally spots on that lake where you can't get there from here.
Yeah, you got to go around it.
The cove that my sister's in, you have to run around the corner. You can see out to the river, across the flat, on to where it gets deep on one of the old creek sides over there.
Yeah.
You cannot drive straight over there.
Now, is this on the north end? Is this on the north end of the river?
On the north end, back toward the Georgia side.
Is it right past the bridge? Go under the bridge, go under the big bridge, go all the way up?
No, it's even back far on that. It's Dead Boy Cove. Most people know where that's at.
I just know there's 2 creeks back there. I can't remember the names of them. They're 2 side-by-side creeks. You go under the big bridge, make the curve around, and you think you can just dart off to the right and go in these coves, but you leave the river channel and you're in like...
Oh, no, yeah, that's Cowan and Spring Creek.
That's exactly what... Yep, Cowan and Spring Creek.
Yeah, there's a big horseshoe. That horseshoe you're talking about, there's a lake far as you can see, but you better stand between those big old poles and drive your behind all the way around the other side of the world over there and go down to them. Because if you take off going straight across there on anything but a jet boat, and even a jet boat, you're probably going to stump jump at some point.
Yeah, it's it definitely, like you said, it was one of them where I'm going, well, I'm just going to go for it because I don't really know where I'm going here. And then, you know, you find out pretty quick. You can't go there. Eric also says, amazing how many people don't trim down in a corner. You know, look, and Eric, I know you know because you work in logistics and freight. It's amazing how many people can go out and buy a boat, an RV, camper, big vehicles, and never have to get a license to drive it. But you want to pull a trailer with your Bobcat on it, or you know, you want to do something like that, you got to go get a CDL license.
Right.
It's amazing to me. I'm not promoting us getting government, you know, whiplash here, but at some point you're like, man, how do you fix not knowing to trim down a boat motor in a corner? You know, I mean, because they go buy it brand new off the showroom floor. They've never owned a boat in their entire life. I went and bought my boat. I'd never owned a bass boat. I've driven several, but I'd never owned a bass boat to really get to know one. I got there the first day. Well, let's, you know, of course I knew to trim it down and let her eat till I got used to it, you know, but
when I went and picked my boat up, you know, they go a whole say, you know, here's your boat. We're going to inspect it. We're going to start it. It's brand new off the showroom floor, blah, blah, blah. But the guys were like, hey, you've owned boats before, right? The salesman told us that. And I said, oh, yeah. They were like, oh, thank God. And I said, really? And they were like, bro, there are people that show up to pick up this boat they ordered. They didn't even know what it looked like. They just picked it out on the website. And he said they don't have the right vehicle to pull it. They're standing around just staring like, so this button does what? Yeah. And you're thinking, and they were like, man, and we're going over our checklist, but we're letting these people loose with this thing, and their little kids are with them, and he said it bothered them sometimes. I mean, they can't stop them.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's no really way you can stop it, you know, from happening. But again, that's why I said, how much are we supposed to police our own? You know, how far do you go with it? I mean, how do you make it a respectful interaction without belittling somebody? Because that's what it turns into, is like, you're testing my manhood, or you're testing my whatever card. And,
yeah.
I mean, dude, you know, somebody gets killed, and then you're looking at going, damn, I
you
wish
make a boo boo and slide up on somebody, and they yell at you, just, hey man, it's my bad. God bless, move on, you know.
Well, I mean, you know, but you want to, like the guys with no lights on the other day. I probably should have trolled over to them and said, guys, look, I get it, but again, I'm not the police, and that's what I'm going to get.
I didn't see you guys. I would have hit y'all fight, and I saw you.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to get. Well, you're not the police. What are you talking to us like that for? But, you know, respectful, I guess. Make sure we talk to them respectful and things like that. But, I mean, I'm sure, you know, somebody, you know, the different accidents that happened on all the lakes this weekend, there was probably a moment in time somebody could have went up to each one of those people and said, hey, look, this ain't real safe what you're doing here. You might want to think about not doing that any longer.
The other day on Alatoona, when the wife and I, we were just out burning gas, really, and it was rough mid-lake, but we were coming back down through there, and, you know, Alatoona is not a wide lake for the most part.
Right.
It's just snakes with fingers.
Mm-hmm.
There was this little dude on a jet ski doing big figure eights out there, and he was living his best life.
Yeah.
Right in the middle.
Yeah.
Well, I started slowing down because I was watching him, and I'm looking around. There's, you know, I'm good on all sides, but this guy doesn't see us.
Yeah.
No clue. He's not stopping and looking and then kicking. He is just caught up in the moment. There's two rather large boats coming the other way, and they're starting to slow down.
Yeah.
Well, I had to wait until this guy happened to look and be like, "Hey, you're in the middle."
you got an audience out here.
And you're making these long figure eights, and it's like, it's not even like two boats that are closing on each other. And these people at least go, hey, I'm going this way. Okay, I'm going to break off. You know, You've committed that you're wanting to go to that side of the lake. Fine and dandy. Just do something. Somebody's got to give. We can't play chicken up to a short distance.
Yeah, you got to make a decision at some point. Somebody's got to make a decision for sure. And then Coleman, he said that's why he's nervous about going to Toledo Bend. Might be crawling around the whole time. And yeah, I mean, that's absolute. I mean, that's.
We would rather you go crawl around and have fun and come back safe.
Yeah.
Than for you to get skin up while being skin on top of the water. Because I don't do that. If I don't know the lake.
Yeah.
It takes me a while. I might get it up just enough, high enough where it's kind of out, and I'm watching that water. I'm lucky that I grew up fishing the swamp over in Weiss, so I learned kind of read the water, and I'm constantly looking at stuff, but I'm not going to skin my boat up or much less hurt me or my passengers or anything else, just going, nah, hell, send it.
Yeah. I'm still cautious. Even the places I've been to a million times, I'm still overly cautious about areas I'll run in and how fast I'll go in there. And I know the lakes really well that I'm talking about, but there's portions of Wedowee on the rivers. I'll go to a certain point, and after that, I'm kind of like, man, I really don't know this area well enough. And I've got guys like, dude, you need to go here. There's great fishing during the summertime. Like, yeah, but once you get to a certain point, it's trolling motor only. And if you don't know that certain point, you end up on a sandbar or a rock or, stumps or whatever. And again, I don't have to go up there and prove myself on some of those stupid areas. I can fish, wherever, but yeah, I mean, I'm still cautious like that. And that's on places I know.
I think Georgia now requires you to have a boater's education course.
Georgia
required?
Georgia requires one up to a certain age, like from a certain age. Was it 96? I think something like that. 94 maybe.
Yeah,
you have to have one. Alabama has just made it that if you are out of state, period, you have got to have a boater ID or boater safety course. Now there is an age cutoff on that I talked about a year ago when I did my little videos on it and stuff. There is an age cutoff that somebody corrected me on. I don't know what the age is, like 70 something, 76 or whatever. I mean, I don't know what it is, but anyway, it don't hurt to go ahead and get one. I mean, it's look, we talked about insurance a minute ago. First thing they're going to do is they're going to try to find a way to put the blame off on the operator, period, end of story. So if you've got all your boxes checked, whether you need it or not, or required or not, guess what? It's less for them to use against you when it comes time to pay you or not pay you for something.
Yeah, you've never taken any sort of safety course, Mr. Jones. We're not going to pay this damage.
Yeah, how do we know you knew how to run that boat? Well, I've been driving one since I was 12. Well, that don't really.
There's no cert for that. There's no picture. It didn't happen. So it's not.
Yeah, I mean, and look at here's the other thing too. I mean, you got to tell somebody that you just injured their loved one, whether it be fatally or whatever. Not that a certificate's going to help you feel any better about it, but at least you'll know you've done everything you can to meet minimum. I don't know. Again, I don't want to do that.
On the flip side of that, you can be doing everything safe and right and still get run over by somebody that is doing the exact opposite of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you just can't get out of their way, or you can't avoid them.
Yep. And then, you talk about Altoona being a narrow waterway. Wedowie's a narrow waterway. Smith Lake's a narrow waterway. And we talk about rotation, right-hand rotation lakes, where you drive like you're driving on the street. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Altoona is that way, but I know Wedowie and Smith Lake are kind of, Smith Lake definitely is. I don't know that I've ever seen it enforced on Wedowie, so I don't know if the 100% is, but basically you stay to the right. You stay to the right. That way everybody kind of knows the rules of the road, and we hey, I'm driving in my lane kind of thing. And Eric did say right here, the John boats on Wedowie are bad about sticking to the banks, and there's so much timber close to the banks there. That's exactly right. That's what we're talking about.
Right. And if you're in a little boat, you're like, hey, we'll just stay close to the bank and stay away from other big boats.
Yep.
That's a good thought, but you're also getting closer to debris.
Yep.
Rocks, points, big snag that's stuck on a point that nobody saw.
Yeah. Fish Lips 1952, I've heard, and this is I've seen and heard a lot of boating horror stories in 50 years. I got ran over, hit head on Weiss one day. People injured, killed, boats destroyed. Man, that's the bad thing. I mean, I can only imagine. And Weiss, yeah, for sure. I mean, nothing you want to deal with. That's for sure.
Weiss is super dangerous.
Yeah,
they just kind of skint the timber and made a wide spot in the Coosa. They never dug it out deep. It's not like we went in there and bulldozed stuff. Right there around Mid Lake on the Georgia side, you can cross under the power poles there where the power lines are. And the old guys, my uncle that taught me how to drive a boat, he's always like, "Oh, get up on pad and go across there."
Right.
Well, it's only like 3 feet deep, but he said that was always a power line and it was always cut, so there's no stumps through there. But the first time or two that you cross it, if you hadn't been there in a few days, is trimmed up looking to see what's sitting there.
Yeah.
Once you clear it, you can skate it. But
you can go on. Yeah.
And you can't let out. Once you're committed, you're committed to you're hit deep water again.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom says those trees or boats will take the bottom out of a bass boat. Big holes ruin the boat. Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, if you can get out of it, not ruining the boat, if you can get out of with just your life, you're lucky on some of that stuff. If it's enough to ruin a boat, as the lake levels change at Weiss and they generate stuff logs, etc., moves hourly. And that's funny because I was going to fish a tournament there. And my buddy's like, man, you got to go up there and fish the log jams, because he remembered the log jams from back in the day. I don't know if they still got them like they did, but
yeah, they probably moved.
Yeah, he was like, Tony, you get up there. He said, you can get up there in that river, man. Them log jams up there, they'll be packed in, whatever. But it's all from that generation schedule and stuff like that too. So, for sure. Oh, and yeah, you said Clint said it was $400. He's in the chat. What's going on? What's going on, Clint, buddy? $400 worth every penny, absolutely, for the leash. And it'll be the next thing. I actually told the wife over the weekend, because after I hit that thing, I thought, man, I got lucky that wasn't because by the time I was coming back down the river, the ripple had built up on the water, so you couldn't see the floaters. You just were hoping there was nothing there, and I didn't notice anything, but I hit something that was under the water. So that's definitely one of those things on my to buy list. And then leash at $399, and that should be very reachable for most boaters. Absolutely. I mean, that's a couple of tanks. That's a couple of weekends of gas, really. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, this is a couple of weekends of gas. You got it paid for. I've seen and heard lots of boating horror stories in 50 years. Oh, we already had that one. Sorry, guys. We already had that one. He typed it again. Wes Logan. That's who it was. I was thinking the name, but yeah, Wes Logan, Lake Champlain, hit the underwater dock in 2024. Leash saved his life. Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he still took a beating. I mean, it messed him up. But he walked away from it and was able to get help. He didn't just have to sit out there and suffer in his own, accident. And they are, and Patricia Lanshaw, they are starting to put leashes on boats. I think it's almost one of those, like, from the manufacturer side of it. It's kind of one of those, why would we not? Because we're giving them a chainsaw bolted to the back of their boat that could kill them. It's actually not a bad idea on their side for liability reasons, honestly.
Mhm.
And look, I know we're still in that, we're all good, we're fishermen. We it's a community, this, that, and the other. But you take somebody on your boat and they get hurt because something you could have done to prevent it. That's all an attorney needs. You know what I mean? It's all an insurance company needs to stick it with you. And look, you got the economy the way it is. Folks don't have insurance or whatever, and not saying they're going to do it on purpose, but by gosh, you put me out of work for 6 months because of something stupid you did. I might have to think about, something different.
Yeah.
Not saying I would, but it makes people think differently, I guess. And he did say, Doug said was on the north side with Dowie. So yeah, right there around that bend where he's talking about, it's a no wake zone, but still you're out there bobbing at daylight in a no wake zone with a red head on, or whatever he had on his head. If it was orange headed boy, or if it was had a cap on or something.
That goes back, like I said, that guy's like, it's a no wake zone. I'm going to take an early morning swim. He's got a red or orange cap on. He's at least thinking, well, what about the other guy that's like, oh, I'm just going to burn up in here. Everybody's asleep. We'll get back here and start flipping these docks. And all of a sudden you're like, hey, what was that? Well, it was somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, and Eric said the game warden told him they'd never recovered a body. He had never recovered a body with a life jacket on, like we said earlier. And that's what Eric's always saying that, because, look, we're all guilty of hopping in. We're just going to go right over here. We don't need a life jacket. Well, they never recovered a body with a life jacket on.
That's right.
So it's a good thing to keep in mind. And what are y'all's thoughts on? We're just going all over the map with the safety thing. I'm glad we're talking about it because some of it needs to be talked about. And if y'all got anything else to talk about, please drop it in the chat because we are woefully unprepared other than safeties, a little bit of bass fishing. We're going to talk.
We're just rolling with it. If y'all caught any big fish, throw it out there. We'll laugh at you, with you, or comment nicely, whatever.
What are y'all's opinions on the auto deploys, the pull to deploy versus your standard foam stuffed life jacket? I've got my opinion, and Tim, what's your opinion on them? Which one do you prefer? Which one do you have in your boat?
I have two of the Mustang auto deployables. I love them. They're comfortable. They're light, but there's still that little bit of doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
What if it doesn't work?
Yeah.
And a good solid jacket that's Coast Guard approved with the zippers and the snaps and all, if you've got all that in place, those things, I mean, how many times we all have owned some. There's probably some still out in my building that are ratty as hell. They'll still save your butt.
They'll float for sure. So I started out when I bought the boat, it had the Bass Pro over the shoulder, clip in the front, auto deploy deal. And it was great until it wasn't. I was out in a rainstorm one day, and of course I didn't throw it under the console, so it got wet, auto deployed. So I recharged it. The next year I'm out in my boat, and it auto deploys on its own. Well, then we're in a tournament in the middle of summer, sunshine. There's not a drop of rain dropping on Logan Martin, and we're running back the last part of the day. We stop at one last spot. I pop the vest off, throw it in the seat, and 30 seconds later it blows up my seat from the sun. And I made that decision. Then I was like, I'm done. I'm done
with it. Yeah, I don't blame you. That's just
like $30 a pop for those recharge kits. I'm like, for $75, I can buy the Bass Pro, like you said, zipper, snaps, got pockets in it, it's got the neck thing on it.
They got so damn many of them. I mean, you find something comfortable. And here's another thing: just because you got two of these auto deployables on your boat, you should have regular ones somewhere up front. And I carry 3 or 4 different little sizes. I've got some for even little kids that are smaller than my kids.
Yeah.
But if you pick some kid up, or hell, you might run on somebody that doesn't have one. Here's a chat. Here, put this on that kid. You don't owe me nothing. You know?
Absolutely.
I want to drown.
Absolutely. And you brought up a good point there. We get pulled over on the water. We get checked for life jackets. And how many times have they ever checked the sizes on the life jackets? Right. Not really ever. But if they wanted to get in the weeds a little bit, well, this life jacket don't fit this guy over here that's 350 and 7'4". You know what I mean? Like it's not made for him.
It's not going to hold him up. Yeah.
And that's when you start getting into those extra tickets, because it might be a life jacket on board, but it don't fit the gentleman that's here, that's going to wear it.
Yeah. When I was a deputy, sometimes we would ride on the weekends. We took shifts riding with DNR on Altoona. For whatever reasons, the powers that be had a deputy and DNR officer on the boat on the weekends. We did lots of safety checks.
stops. And we got a lot of frowny faces and stuff from folks that were on their pontoon and the little toddlers running around with a little arm floaty thing and all on. And they would get mad when we would tell them, hey, that's not Coast Guard approved. Nope. That's a pool toy.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were, well, we let you, and it's like, yes, God bless you for at least making the child wear something on here. But if they get unconscious or they struggle, it's not going to put them face up.
Yeah,
they're going to be face down or whatever. And, that's why it's got to be Coast Guard approved, which most of the guys I rode, they didn't write them a ticket, but it was just one of them, hey, do you got something better? If not, next time you come out, don't bring the pool floats for the grandbabies.
Education's the key. Us talking about it tonight. If we talk about it once a show, educate with the DNR or your Marine patrols, or if you're on the water and see somebody like that. But at some point, unfortunately, that's why the tickets exist, is because education stopped working and we had to start hitting in the pocketbooks. And then they start going, well, $250 ticket turns into me buying a $75 life jacket that was way cheaper to begin with.
Exactly.
But,
it's way cheaper to buy that fishing license than it is to pay that fine, especially if you're out of state.
Yeah.
I've seen them get some folks and they're like, he just write me a ticket. And it's like, yeah, but you're over here in Alabama and you're from Georgia and you have no idea what's fixing to happen to you.
Absolutely. And Doug said, Eric, the game warden, said the same thing to him on a few weeks ago on the podcast. And Doug had a gentleman that I knew when in law enforcement, Chad Cox, and you might know him, Tim.
Yeah.
Chad. I think he had Chad on his show, which I was glad to see Chad get on there. I've known him for a long time. But yeah, I mean, it's stuff like that. It's very sobering. I mean, and once you see it in law enforcement, I'm telling you, you can't make up some of the stuff you see. And that truth is stranger than fiction type stuff. They've seen it all.
All the time.
Yeah. And then Tom says insurance is needed. If your boat value is less than the $1 million boat, coverage still applies. Without insurance, you'll pay $1 million, same as boat docks, ramps. And that's, again, we're driving around, and I'm not, but I'm driving around $100,000 bass boats. So my coverage needs to be able to fix whatever I tear up, kind of thing too. So Lord knows I don't want to have to pay for a $100,000 bass boat out of my pocket unless it's mine. So
exactly.
So yeah, we definitely make sure we got insurance and stuff if you can, and it's just help you too. But Eric said it's a very sobering statement, and it really is. Patricia said Mark Daniels Jr. said this is the first year he's run the leash, and I think a lot of us, they never ran them or just now getting them for the first year or two. So, and then she said should be mandatory, and I'm gonna say
it may be one day. Remember, before now, all your boats from somebody put it in the comments what year, all these newer boats. My new boat out here, it's got the little ladder.
Yeah,
some of them have the ones that come out and go down. That's mandatory. Your boat manufacturer from a certain year on has to put a boarding ladder on the boat of some sort that passes spec.
Yeah, absolutely. And it said in tournaments, but I think we may not be far off from making it mandatory regardless, just because they're going to say it's a safety thing, Let's see. And then Tom says, I took my dad for a ride in my bass boat, showing off the lightning speed to some girls who flashed us. He said, follow that boat. Tom, there you go.
I'm
Tom's
with him. I mean, just go that way.
Tom's like squirrel. They're going to go, yeah, absolutely. All right. Coleman, one thing you never assume is the person the other boat is going to do. Some people don't know or don't care about the rules. Every eyes stay peeled while you drive. Don't text and drive. Yeah. We've seen some of our friends. I won't throw him under the bus here, but he watches the show. He put a video out. He texting and driving the boat. Now he wasn't going fast, but he ended up hitting a boat slip. So it does happen.
Like I said, it takes two. Be a good spotter. Don't sit there goofing around with something while you're, especially if you're running wide open or at a good speed. Be looking around. Help that driver out, because your butt's the one that's going to get unasked from the boat first.
Right.
They're going to hold on to the steering wheel or something for about a second behind you, most likely.
Yeah, they got a little box holding them in for the most part.
Yeah, it might catch their legs. If y'all ever saw that funny video where I hit that rogue wave and bounced the guy that was riding in the passenger seat, he went down and his feet went up on the deck. Well, my legs hit the console and I was holding on to the steering wheel, but when we hit the wave, it bounced my foot off the hot foot.
Yeah.
for a split second. Well, you know how that just killed our speed, and he just shot forward.
he gravity took control of the rest of it.
And just like all of us big kids, he was like, "You let out of it," and I was like, "I didn't have a choice because I went this way and the pedal stayed here. I couldn't reach it."
Gravity and inertia. Once they both interact with each other, you start having different things happen for sure. And it's
there was some scientific stuff went on that with him skidding to the front of the boat.
Exactly. You know, it's we've all had something crazy like it happen. You know, not laughing at him, but it's kind of funny when it happens. Nobody gets hurt. You can at least laugh about it for sure. Nathan Edwards says boats don't have brakes. The speed you run is the speed you will hit something, and that's 100% correct. You know, and something else, going back to Coleman's statement, and then also going with Nathan's kind of coupled together here. If you think you know how to drive a boat, I challenge you, and not driving really, but if you know the proper operation of a boat in open water, let's put it that way, I challenge you to research some of the actual rules, the Coast Guard approved laws, I'll say, I guess. Go read some of that stuff. It'll surprise the heck out of you. Like who has the right of way, really and truly.
And if you will take a state approved course, that's part of the stuff you're learning. It's not just, hey, keep a lanyard. I mean, they're telling you the maritime rules of travel on the water. If you're going upstream, it tells you which side of the square and the triangle and the color of them and why they're numbered. It'll tell you why they're numbered odd or even. It'll tell you if you're approaching a vessel that is larger than you, that it has the right of way, not because it's bigger. Well, actually because it's bigger, but it can't turn as fast as the little boat can. Yep. So it's just common sense stuff. And if you apply it, it's great. But we've all been on a boat going across the lake, and you kind of clear in there. Everybody, they're going that way, they're going this way. You keep looking at them, and there's just one, and you're like, does he see me?
Yeah.
Which way you gonna go? It's like, give me something, man. You know.
Yeah.
I'll go around you, or then you get in that where there's one. There's no escape this way, and it's like, okay, now what do you do?
Yeah.
If you stop and sit still, is he still gonna hit you? So you're in a tight spot at that time.
Yep. I mean, there's a bunch more to it than some folks really think about. I think when it gets to the rules of the road on the lake and how you're supposed to apply it and when you're supposed to apply it. That's another thing. It gets real deep into it, you know. And obviously I don't know them all, but I've looked at some of it and I'm like, didn't know that was the rule. You know, I mean,
there's a lot of these rules and crimes or whatever is because it wasn't a crime the first time.
Yeah.
Like regulations for horsepower on boats. That wasn't a thing years ago. Guys take these little 15-foot boats, put a 150 or 175, whatever they could muster up on it, and bad things happen.
Right, exactly. And then Tom says at night speed limits are enforced. Jet skis are not allowed to operate at night or any reckless operators. Well, that's on certain waters because there's some lakes you go out there on your bass boat in a tournament and you can run as fast as your boat will go. I've not seen it really. I'm not saying it's not enforced. I just hadn't seen it enforced like it probably should have been. You know.
Yeah. Well, what if somebody's on their little? What do they call those? Stand-up paddle boards? Is it paddle board?
I think so. Yeah.
What if somebody's just out there and they decide they're just going to go out of the cove a little bit on their little paddle board? They ain't got no lights on it.
Right.
It's about that thick. Unless you see the person out there on the water.
Exactly. Yeah, Doug said he's insurance poor, brother. I think we all are at this point. I think we all are, unfortunately. Doc, what's going on? Doc said he's late to the party. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome, sir. Always welcome, late or not. We appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with us for a little while. Like I said, we got about 40 minutes or so, and we should have Greg jump in here. We'll talk a little bit about Logan Martin and his NPFL win. We're just going through a little bit of BS session, to be honest. We're talking about a little bit of boat safety and lake safety for all of us that don't know. Big Bait John's in the chat. What's going on? I got to fish with him a little bit on Friday. I say a little bit. We'll get into this part of safety. All right. I fish all the time. But I'm in construction, so I work out in the heat a little bit. I'm not the guy swinging the hammers or whatnot. But anyway, John says, hey, we'll go Friday. So we go up to Latham. First time I've ever been there on an electric boat, his boat. And that thing will absolutely fly. Let me just say, we're making a weight with that thing. We even picked up Mr. Danny Pruitt for about what, John, 2 hours? We had him on there about 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours. Listen, Them's the pickiest darn fish I've ever seen.
They are.
Holy crap. We go out there and he catches one on the end of the ramp where I'm getting my stuff out of the car. He's been there about 15 minutes. I got there at 8. No, I got there at 7:45. They opened the gates a little early. And he's already caught a fish, sent me a picture of it. Well, we get out there and he goes, yeah, we're going to go right here. Man, we couldn't pay for a bite. They would follow everything you threw at them. I believe you could have thrown.
Was it super clear?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When I was the couple of times I've been up there, I was like, holy smokes, this is clear. I mean, you see forever.
It was clear, but there was no wind, no clouds. Well, maybe a little bit of clouds, but man, they was fish everywhere. We was seeing fish all over the place. We finally went to a spot and I caught one on a fluke that I had belly weighted that I let it drop 25 foot down and caught a largemouth with. I'm like, okay, we got it figured out.
That's where Danny gets that. Hey, I'll throw my wacky and wait an hour for it to get to the bottom. That's why, because he lives across the street from it, and he's always.
I see why. We like I said, he put us on foul. We got one spot. I'm not joking. If there wasn't 250 fish, I'm lying. And them jokers would follow anything you threw at it. I don't care if you threw a bear hook, they would follow it. You couldn't give them to bite. They hit it. They hit it mouth closed, trying to kill it. Everything you threw at them. The only thing I didn't run through there is I didn't run a crankbait through there. I don't even think I put the crankbait rod in the boat. It was in the vehicle I was driving, but I was like, man, I'm on somebody else's boat, kind of limited space. We thought we was going to catch them with big baits. Of course, back to my story here. So we fished till with Danny on the boat. It's about 12. Danny's like, hey, would you mind? Sorry, I thought I hit the mic. Danny was like, hey, would you mind taking me back? I need to go do some work. And I'm over there going, thank God, I'm dying. It's no wind. It's 150 degrees on that boat. I'm dying. So we get back to the boat, and I got to drive an hour and a half home in a vehicle with no air conditioning, and I'm dehydrated as all get out. So moral of the story is make sure you hydrate, because that's another safety thing. I wasn't thinking it was going to be. I mean, we went out there 20 minutes. I done soaked through my shirt, soaked through my shorts. I'm like, man, I might need to jump in this late, much less fish it, But
sometimes this cheap stuff here, I mean, this won't do it for you sometimes.
Oh, no. I went
through. We were taught in the military hydrate, 2 days before you go out?
Absolutely.
So yeah, but keep you some packets, liquid IV, it's something. Go find something to put in there.
I drank a big Gatorade, but I had 2 of the 300 milligram coffee drinks with me. And I mean, I was drinking, but I wasn't drinking the right stuff all the time. And I don't dehydrate like most people do. But either way, at the end of it, I knew when we got back to the boat ramp, I'm like, I can't stay on this boat no longer. I got to go.
Yeah.
I made the drive home, and then John starts texting me pictures of fish he just caught. When the storm rolled in, he started catching them like crazy. I'm like, dude, I hate that I couldn't stay because I didn't hydrate properly, and I didn't want to catch myself in a bad situation.
You don't want a heat stroke or cramping and all that stuff.
And I don't want any of that stuff. But something they scared me in the military with is I don't want the check for my core temperature to happen. I don't want that core temperature check. So,
there is nothing that will make you guzzle water more than Doc over there with one of those big silver bullets and a gleam in his eye going,
yeah.
If you fall, if you go down,
don't even think about it.
Doc's coming after you.
Yeah. Don't close him eyes too long. Don't close him eyes
right,
too
long. Don't lay still on the ground. Somebody's going to be like, I think he's passed out. And Doc's going to be over there peeling that foil back.
So
you're going to get it.
I knew at that point, I was like, all right, it's time for me to get over here to the ramp, get me some water, get me some Gatorade, something. I gotta hydrate a little better. But anyway, it was fun. We had fun. It just, man, they were picky. Stupid picky that day. And there's a bunch
I'll drink a bottle of water, and then my next one, I'll put one of those little packets of electrolytes or hydration stuff in it, and I just alternate.
Yeah.
And I just stumbled upon that, and it works for me. It may not work for you.
Yeah.
But I had gotten a habit there a few years back. We were going up there and fishing the Tennessee River during July. Now, the smallmouth would bite.
Yeah.
But you were roasting on the boat, and you would literally just crush one of those bottles of water, and you're still thirsty.
Yeah.
But if you put something in there, it seemed like 15, 20 minutes later, it's like, hey, I'm clear thinking. Muscles aren't hurting as bad.
Yeah.
And you could stay a little longer, but.
Absolutely. Eric says he takes the 4th of July weekend off. It's probably a smart thing to do. Tom, he says the houseboat prop was so expensive, you wouldn't take any chances. I agree. It's a little different. Big Bait John answered the question about the life jackets. I don't like the auto deploy. Send him go off for no reason. Dang near choked him twice. Asked me how I know. So there you go. And then Eric says he prefers auto deploy because
I enjoy mine.
Back if you're unconscious.
They were super expensive Mustangs. I don't know one brand from the other, quality or whatever, but so far neither one of them has popped.
Yeah.
And nobody's, people that get in there, I'm like, hey, don't yank on that, and be careful, don't just jerk it up off the floor, because I think it's $40 a kit for them or something.
Yeah. And it seems like the Mustangs that I've wore are definitely better built. I'm not dogging Bass Pro stuff out, but they're a little on the cheaper side. And again, I've had them auto deploy on their own 3 times. Well, one time was because I got it wet, and that was my fault. I didn't throw it on the console. That was my fault. The other 2 times, that was all whatever, because they've been sitting in there for several months. It wasn't like I installed it incorrectly or whatever.
It just took a spell to pop. Huh?
It just decided it was going to pop. Now all I can figure is the sun. The sun hit it just right, or maybe it built up some moisture. I don't know what, but I literally pulled it off, threw it in the seat, and there it goes. And there was no water in the boat. I mean, it wasn't like we were underwater. So I don't know. Patricia says one is for sure, and the other is 50-50. I think we're talking about, auto deploy versus, your
well, like I said, I love them, but there's that little bit of doubt.
Yep. Life vests are like armor protection. I had bought airline self-inflation, but I would rather have padded protection. There you go. And then Big Bait says, amen, Tim. You could save someone's life. John G, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the chat. Appreciate you stopping by. Max Wilson fishing. I ran around with Dowie idling, looking at maps and side scan. I can't imagine texting. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I've been guilty of looking down at my dang graphs too long, just for a second. Not that I've run into anything, but look down and go, oh, dang, I didn't realize I done got as close as I had to where I was going, So and I think that's the big argument with some of the pro stuff or whatever, especially after the accident on Smith Lake. And you got 2 16s on your console or 2 12s on your console, and you got 2 16s up front. And I get it. I don't know. Eric says he started poking around at getting his real captain's license. Some of the regulations are insane. Yep. Yeah, you go.
There's different grades. I think if you're going to haul 6 people, it's one class of license. If you're going to haul any more or drive any longer boat. But that guy that's been fishing with me off and on, MJ, he has a captain's license. He used to work for Towboat. He can quote you some scripture. It's like, whoa, you dug deep in the Bible for that one about just the things we all violate every day.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, you dig into some of that stuff, and it's pretty in depth stuff. And some of the stuff we don't think about, I think, really, because we look at it going, I think a lot of folks think captain's license is for saltwater. I mean, I guess because it kind of is. I don't know if there's an actual freshwater, but I think the captain's license applies to all
pretty much all vessels.
It is.
Some states require you to have them if you're going to be a guide.
Correct.
Georgia, luckily, has not got that far yet.
Right. And it don't take but a few problems. I think if you heard more issues happening on guide trips, you might have it happen a lot sooner than later, or they lobby the government enough to make it required so they can reduce the number of guides out there, maybe. But that's a legal thing, not anything I care about particularly on that. Trish said, I saw a pontoon boat stuck through the bottom of a bass boat on Lanier one night. No lights on the pontoon. Dang. That's rough right there. That's rough. Well, I remember back in the 90s, man. I think it was the 90s. Correct me if I'm wrong. What was it? The whole bridal party that got,
that's right,
on Lanier.
That's right.
Back then, you could drive a boat and drink alcohol. There wasn't a drinking and driving thing, back then. That was what people did.
And people violate that so much nowadays.
I've never been one to want to do that. Like,
booze and boats don't mix.
It is not something I have a desire to ever do. Is operate a vehicle and drink at the same. Listen, I'm not going to judge you.
Cautious enough sober. I don't need any alcohol.
I'm not going to judge you if that's what you're. But I am going to call you a piece of crap, because if you drink and drive, man, you're just taking it. Just sorry if it offends anybody. Just not my cup of tea.
And if you end up taking a life or costing a life, no matter your boat, their boat, you could do a lot of time somewhere.
Yeah.
To think about that.
And I'm not saying when I was younger I didn't do stupid crap. We've all done it. We've all done stupid crap. But I look back and go, man, that could have been way worse than it was. Anyway, Tom said he was
caught any fish. Nobody's even said anything about catching any fish.
Right. Let's see. Tom said he was fishing on the Ohio River, drove out of a creek at night, hit some big roller waves, immediately slowed down. I couldn't see a river barge side in my path. Good thing to slow down. Literally almost took out a riverboat, or riverboat almost took him out, one of the two.
You think those barges super long, dark?
Yeah.
You would think it's nothing and drive into it.
Right into it.
So shocked that the sky bit you all of a sudden.
I've been on Gunnersville during the day around those barges, man. Holy crap. Those, I mean, you don't realize how big they are till you get down there beside one of them.
Yeah, I've been on Tennessee River up there, and they come pushing like two of them stacked together, and it's like, man, it takes them half hour to get by. Yeah. And the weight coming off of them is rough.
Yep. Eric said he's just sitting there listening, not tying some jigs. I know he just got back from vacation, so he's back in the saddle doing that stuff.
And he's tying us all up some jigs. Man, that's awful nice of him.
There you go. And John said he caught 3. He said he whacked them after. Yeah, he whacked them after. So we're gonna do it again one day, John, for sure. Doc Holiday said somebody caught a 12-pound limb on Oconee last week, maybe the late record. Yeah, for sure. Let's see.
Tree bass, man.
Yeah, they get you every time. You know it. In fact, we got a veterans tournament. I do every once in a while over here. Ken Bearden puts it on, Veterans Fishing Organization, and they actually give out. It's the I can't remember what they call it exactly, but it's basically a limb award for the veteran that goes out and catches the biggest stick, and it's got a plaque with a squirrel on it, and it's a funny little deal they give away for sure. It's just something. It's something and now it's become like everybody wants it. Like everybody wants that plaque every year. So
right.
I think we got guys out there going and making stuff up now, but they get it every time. Somebody gets it every time. Robert says, make sure your fuel lines are in excellent condition. Saw a boat explode when an electrical spark ignited gas vapor in the bilge. That's something we don't talk about, mechanical issues like that. You get these big boats with cabins and stuff like that on. They've got fans in there for a reason, exhaust fans and things like that.
The fumes out.
Yeah, that stuff.
And a boat on fire on the lake is way bad.
Yeah. It's
now the lithium batteries, which Tony can comment a lot more on those for those fire extinguishers.
Make sure we got your fire extinguisher.
Yeah. I never thought about a lithium battery. I thought, well, if it's a fire, it's fire. Use your fire extinguisher. And I get educated all the time on how to use a fire extinguisher. Being a public safety person, never thought about lithium.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
your regular fire extinguisher not gonna do much to it.
We had him on the show, and I immediately reached out to him. I'm like, dude, this is really important. And I know a lot of folks probably have or haven't bought them. Some folks haven't. It's one of those things that I'll have on the boat. Heck, I've been known to have 2 on the boat at times just because I needed one for something else.
2 is 1 is none.
Well, I'm doing something. I'm doing something on the boat with video or something like that. And I've got both options in the boat for video, and then they ride around for a month. I'm like, okay, well, at least I got 2 on the boat. And until we have somebody that we know or something happens to people, we'll kind of sit back and go, well, I'll get one when I need one, kind of thing. But if I could, listen, get you one. It's cheap. They're cheap enough. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. And Ken says if the fish weren't biting when Danny was in the boat, those fish know his voice, and it's very possible. Very possible. And I will say Danny stayed true to his name. He pulled out the wacky rig on the worm he uses, and he went to town with it, but it did not produce. Yeah. Let's see. And then Big Bait said Tony needed a Ranger for Tim.
Ranger IV.
Oh yeah, Ranger IV, Tim. Yeah. That's exactly right.
It's like no.
No.
There's only a few different ways to get water in your body. Y'all
I'm not doing that. I would have drank lake water. I would have jumped in the lake.
Like Tony said, don't close your eyes unless you're too still. They're like, oh, man down.
Yeah. Nathan says if you have an issue with PFD being comfortable, look at the ones made for kayak fishermen. Many of them are very comfortable, and he's 100% right.
They are. Some of those are very nice.
Yeah, exactly. And then John wants to know, Tim, have you ever got the bullet? Getting a little personal now. Getting a little personal. I can say with 100% honesty, I have never fell out and had to have that checked.
No, I have felt like I was dying, but never fell out.
Now, with that being said, I am at the age where I've had to go have my check done and had to have the colonoscopy done. So I have had that. I know that's a little bit too much information, but we all
that's just refreshing. You feel right as rain after that.
Listen, I slept through the whole thing. I don't know what happened.
Right.
They drugged me up, took advantage of me.
I woke up hungry. I'm like, hey, we got something to eat. Big Bait John, I bet he's been standing somewhere and had Doc somewhere in the crowd with that gleam in his eye.
Oh yeah, we've all been there. Listen, I'm Marine Corps, Department of the Navy. They're all around. There's
I got Docs everywhere.
They pop up out of the woods when you think there's somebody's gonna fall out. But Matt Bryson on TikTok, he said, I just stay off the lakes on the holidays, and that's I think we've all, a lot of us do. Some of us still take to water, but maybe not big water like we.
When I went a few days ago, it was already getting ramped up. We rode from one end of the lake to the other, but it was like you see those guys on the Great Lakes just nosing. I had to keep the nose up on the boat the whole time, just chugging through it. Then we skated up into some creeks to some known spots where you can catch little 2-pounders, and I played with them for a little while, and we went on to the house.
Right. Yeah. Spot Choker's in the house. What's going on, Spot Choker? From Spot Choker headquarters, Mr. Rob Williams in the house. Thanks for stopping by, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for stopping by. And his next comment: everybody needs to take a boater safety course. I agree. And then Doc Holly said largemouth, Tony. I don't know what that means. What we're talking about. I know that limb. I know he said something about a limb earlier, but maybe I'm mistaken.
Maybe he meant LM largemouth and it came out limb.
I don't know. Maybe so. He said no. Coleman said no. That somebody called a 12-pound largemouth. I got you. I thought we were talking about tree fish there for a minute. I got you. Okay. Oh my goodness. Did I misread that? Is that what it was? Did I misread it? I'm trying to scroll back up and see if I misread that one. Man,
I'm running off my phone, but I'm watching on YouTube, so I got like a 6-second lag. So some of the fresh comments I don't see for a few seconds.
Oh, he said LMB. He said LMB. Okay, I'm going back to he said LMB.
Largemouth bass.
My mind went limb for some reason.
No, you're talking to like military people. We barely read and write, so don't do that. LMB, it's a limb. Yeah, he meant to say limb.
Okay, you got me, guys. Good catch. I read limb that whole time. So
I did too. I'm like,
well, the way my setup is, I've got the comments over here on my right side. I have to glance over at them. So a lot of times I pull them up on the screen. I'm trying to read them. Not an excuse. I read limb. Hey, that was funny. I don't care what you say. Largemouth bass, Tony, not limb. Yeah, we got it.
Danny did not require either one of us to read or write to do this.
There was no test.
There's a disclaimer for that.
There was no test.
No, you have no test. It's like, here, figure this out.
Funny. That's funny. All right, that's hilarious. Oh goodness. And then John's like, Tony was thinking about his catches. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I did catch a few limb brim this weekend for sure. That's too funny. All right, guys. They're allowed to push. Jeff says they're allowed to push 15 barges with a towboat on the Tennessee River. That's massive. They are hard.
Yeah, it's like you can't see the end of it. It's just they're all together going.
Yeah, I've only been around like 2 at a time. I've never been around a 15 barge run. That's wild.
There's some of those bends and stuff like in between the upper Nickajack down to the Wide Lake. That's miles and miles of just river. Can you imagine coming around the corner and there's like half a dozen barges coming up through there? Where are you going to go?
Yeah, exactly. Tom said he started pouring jigs with lead and some pewter, 62% lighter than lead, to get better bulk, lighter weight. There you go. Let's see what else we got down here. He said he's pouring 1/4 ounce jigs, weigh 1/8 ounce for more bites. All right, we're getting in some I'm just pulling them up now as we go down through them. Tom's a pocket waterproof flashlight is necessary to walk out, if necessary to get home. Yeah, that's always a good idea. If you got a waterproof flashlight, you go overboard for sure. Yeah, John says y'all talking about lakes. A lot of people on the lakes during the holidays. I probably saw 100 on the river too. So that's what's wild. You start getting the river floaters that start taking to the water during this time, and that's I don't know about where John's at, but I know some of the places I know, like where my house is at on Tallapoosa, it's not very deep. And I've seen bass boats run up there full speed around the bend where they can't run no more. And it's the same where the kayakers come down. I'm like, dude, it's way too dangerous to be doing something like that up the river for me personally, but they do it. The safest place on the lake at night is a marina, no wake. It's very possible. We just had somebody in the comments talking about one of the boats got loose in the marina though. So I mean, it's safer. It's probably safer. It's definitely safer for sure.
Can you imagine sleeping on your little cabin cruiser and you wake up and you're like, why are we out in the middle of the lake or out in the middle of the marina?
So did anybody else do any fishing this weekend? I mean, I know we had, we saw Cletus, he was out wakeboarding of all things. He did catch a fish though. I saw a post where he said he finally caught a fish this weekend too, but he was doing some
he posted a very respectable little brim. I was real proud of him.
Yeah, I was very proud of him doing that. I mean, again, I went fishing Friday with John, and then I went yesterday for about 2.5 to 3 hours. I said, I'm just gonna go out here just to scratch the itch. It didn't get scratched. I mean, the getting out on the water got scratched, but I didn't catch anything. It was an uneventful couple hours on the water. Threw the urchin bait around a good bit. Didn't really have any takers. Threw shaky head. Just wasn't feeling it. Saw a bunch of folks fishing from their docks and stuff that weren't catching anything either. So
yeah, my wife threw her urchin bait, her quickie. She bought at the classic.
How'd you like that?
She enjoyed it. Figured out how to work it real good. I just told her, I said, the conditions, it's just, I can't get you to a spot. Now, I couldn't find a spot really to employ it.
Yeah.
Most of the larger fish are out toward the main lake, and you can't even get there to sit still to try. I dropped and scanned a few points. It was like, there was some big blips down there I'd like to at least, put a little effort into, but I didn't want her getting seasick and everything else, so I just ran back up in pockets and stuff where I knew some brush piles, stuff like that was. And I quit at about 8 or 10 because I felt bad. She was still throwing that quickie.
Right.
No bites.
But, I mean, the ones I've seen that I've caught recently, like you said, I was on the big river, the Tallapoosa River, and it was on a brush pile probably 20 foot deep.
Mm-hmm.
It was a 4.5 largemouth, but it was right there on the edge of the river. I mean, it was just a brush pile happened to be there that I didn't even know was there at first.
Right.
I scanned it and saw the brush pile. I never saw the fish.
And like Halatuna, if you can get pretty good ways off some of these deeper points and cast up into the shallower and work stuff, especially some top waters, you can get some pretty respectable 3-pounders, 4-pounders off of it. But
yeah,
you're gonna have to sneak out there early and be gone before everybody else is enjoying their time on the lake. And
yeah,
I'm all for everybody needs to, do their own thing, but like this whole show, it's like respect others. Don't run in between the fishermen and the bank. Don't drive past them wakeboarding and wave like, hey, and not realize what you're about to do to them.
Yeah, they're oblivious at that point.
They are, and a lot of it, unfortunately, and I hate to use the word ignorance, but it's just they don't know no better.
Well, and that's what it boils down to. They're ignorant of the etiquette, And Doc Holiday, he posted on Facebook about what not to do on the lake or at the boat ramp and stuff. And then I guess that's kind of where I was getting at with the question tonight about how much do you police people, because we've all seen it, loading, prepping their boat in the boat ramp, wiping their boat down in the boat ramp.
Safety at the boat ramp and clogging up, just oblivious that there's a whole parking lot full of people that like to use that space.
Yeah. I mean, we've all seen it happen. We all see it. I was coming in last weekend, coming back into the boat ramp, and there, there's gas pumps in this boat ramp marina area. Well, they're lined up just across the mouth of the pocket to get into the ramp in general. And I'm getting in there. I'm going, well, dang, which way do I go here? Because if I go to the left, I'm hugging the bank, which has got rocks in it, and I'm going to tearing something up. Or do I kind of drive at them and hope they get the point here in a second and start moving out of the way? But again, like we talked about, they're in their zone. They're in their bubble. They're trying to get their gas. They're not worried about what's going on around them. And and I jokingly said, if we warn them all, we lose our entertainment for the day. But honestly, we have to be good stewards and go up there and talk and say, look, hey man, right here is probably not the best place to be waxing your boat hole right now.
Yeah.
Pull up to the prep zone or
back down the ramp. And now the family and all the wife and kids are getting out, and they're getting the picnic baskets out, and we're going, oh, wait a minute, I got to crawl up there and put a plug in there. Oh, it won't start, or wait a minute, I forgot something.
Now, out of all that stuff, what I do get a kick out of is I love to watch pontoon boats load. I don't care.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a windy day, because I mean, nobody's getting hurt.
They always put the trailer too deep, it seems, and then they try to get up there, and it's like
you got a guy standing at the doggone winch. He's up to his belly button in water. It's like this is fixing to go real well.
Yeah, they're gonna get right up to it, and the wind's gonna blow them over the rocks.
Yeah. Dang pontoon sitting on their sideways. It's I mean, honestly, that's funny. I mean, for a minute it's funny, but if you're trying to leave or go somewhere, put your boat.
Yeah, if you're sitting out in the water, you're like, come on, man.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny to a certain point, and then it guy's like, I'm over that part.
I've always told people, I said, a lot of these pleasure boaters, and some of them do an outstanding job. They I don't know if they've learned from watching others and just like, oh, I should probably do this up here and then hurry up and get my boat off, and then But if they've ever been to if you don't know how, go to a big launch at a big bass tournament and watch everybody put 40, 50, 80 boats in the water in minutes.
Yeah.
Without a mishap.
Yeah.
Just boats kicking them off trailers. I mean, just constant. It's orchestrated chaos.
Absolutely. What's up, Alex? Alex popped up in the comments. What's going on, buddy?
Hey.
That's the one thing. Obviously, there's a bunch of bass boat guys that are snobs and whatnot too. But for the most part, I honestly, like I said, I bought my bass boat, and of course, I knew I from having brother-in-laws and stuff that had boats in the past, I knew etiquette and stuff like that to a certain extent. But like you said, I watched a lot of these guys load, unload, and I was like, you know what? I practiced it before I went to the water before I went to a tournament the first time, or before I would go to a busy ramp, I'd go practice it somewhere. Just getting used to loading and unloading, because everybody's boats are different. They do it, especially if you're by yourself, which I knew I was going to do a lot, fish by myself. And it took a few times to understand that my Ranger was a little bit heavier than most boats, and I needed to drop that trailer in the water a little bit further to get it on there, or whatever. So practice makes perfect. But another thing, I know a lot of us in the chat, obviously we fish and things like that. But if you got questions, ask somebody. Hey man, take me out and show me how to operate this. I got a buddy that I'll go fishing with, and he's got a Skeeter, fairly new one, and I think he's a little intimidated by me being on the boat with him. He's like, every time we get there, he goes, "You drive it." He will not drive his own boat when I'm with him at all. I'm like, dude, it's your boat. Just drive me around. I'm not. I promise you, I'm not over here quizzing you. I'm not writing down.
Not here to judge. I'm here to enjoy riding. But I like going with other guys. Sometimes it's like, man, I'll just stand here quiet if they want me to help them prep or not. If not, I leave them alone, and I'm like, hey, I'll dump you in the water, and I get to ride all day. I ain't got to worry about nothing.
Dude, he's like, you're driving the boat and you're running the trolling motor. I'm like, dude, this is not a break for me at all. This is just on a different boat at this point. And it's still fun. But I'm like, dude, just drive your boat. But he's a great guy. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he watches the show or not, but Eddie, he knows what I'm talking about, but he's awesome. He was like, dude, drive it. I want you to drive it. I'm like, we'll do it, man. Kent Goins said, let's see. Well, hang on. We're going to go back to some more of the comments here. Eric said he's pouring 3/16 ounce shaky heads tonight, going to paint some orange for Coleman and motor oil because I want to try the powder coat. There you go. I like it. Doug said he caught 4 little peckerheads on Widowie Friday morning. He when I text him, he was off the water.
Better than a skunk.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I only caught 2 the Sunday before. One was a 4.5, but I only caught 2 fish all day. Well, I missed a bunch on that dang urchin bait too, though. They were hitting it, but not. I couldn't get them pinned for some reason.
Yeah.
Tricia said if you're fishing this heat, the bass are laughing at you, and that's probably very much so. I did notice on Widowie, we'd talked about it the week before with some guys that were fishing up that way. Going up the river, the water temperature was a little bit lower, but they were staying around those dock floats pretty good. A lot of crappie were up under the dock floats, a lot of spotted bass under the dock floats, and then brush piles near the dock floats seemed to have bigger bass on it. But like I said, they were still picky enough. And Tom says Willie Nelson. Appreciate that, Tom. I have no clue what you mean by it. But
you talking about Willie Nelson's remedy that you buy in the ball?
I don't know, but we'll take it for what it's worth.
For people that don't know, that's not bourbon.
Yeah, hopefully
it has THC in it, so you're on your own at that point. I'm sure it's great stuff, but if you're prone to a company drug test, you may not want to purchase it.
And hopefully,
if you're not, enjoy and tell us how it is.
And for you folks that have hung out thus far, we're hoping in about 6 minutes that Mr. Greg Vinson will drop in and we'll get to chat with him for that last 30 minutes of the show. If not, we'll call it early because we've talked about boat safety for an hour and a half and we managed to do it. I didn't think we'd make it that
far. We pulled another one off.
Yeah, we pulled another one off. Kent said he went Thursday night from about 6 to 12, caught largemouth, smallmouth, and spots on Cherokee, Tennessee. Big help they eating crawfish. Yeah. I actually tied a jig back on Sunday. I didn't use it, but I tied it back on. I hadn't had a jig on in a minute because I'm throwing that koiki bait or urchin bait. It's not a brand koiki, but it's urchin bait. And it's just like fishing a jig to me. I mean, honestly, it stays in the strike zone longer, but it's like fishing a jig.
Yeah, I rigged tips on a belly weight.
Yeah,
it's kind of the only thing I had really at hand.
Yeah,
and got her throwing it out there, and I just told her, I said, let go down a little bit, and I said, you want to make it swim along.
Yep.
And she was getting it down, getting her motor skills down with that, doing a good job. We just weren't in the right spot for something to come up and pop it.
Absolutely. Well, we got Mr. Greg has popped into the chat real quick. We're going to bring him up real fast. Greg, what's going on, man?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Shoot, man. We're in here talking boat safety for the last hour and a half. I'm like, hopefully we can make this work for an hour and a half.
Well, it's a good time of year to talk about boat safety, man.
It is.
Well, it's funny.
About it.
Absolutely. It was funny because at the tournament, at the NPFL event on Logan Martin, the first guy that weighed in gave a pretty good, I say first guy, he was one of the first 5 or 6 guys to weigh in. He gave a pretty big spiel about boat safety, how surprised he was on Logan Martin about how unsafe the folks were acting out there. So it kind of rung a bell right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really did. I had a good bag and I really had, was trying to think of the plan, for that last, I don't know, close to 2 hours that I had when I left my main area. And I thought about a couple places close to takeoff where I got a couple of big bites in practice. I didn't set the hook on them. I knew they were big fish, just flipping a big jig, and I thought, that'd be a good place to maybe catch a 5 or 6 pounder and upgrade some and be in a safe spot, man. And I started back and the old Phoenix was rocking and rolling there for a while, trying to get back up the lake. Stopped 2 or 3 times, fill the live wells back up, and man, by the time I got back, I was like, you know what, it'd be a lot easier to lose 4 ounces right now than to gain 4, and let's go ahead and get them in safe and alive, and let's chip forward and mace. I know exactly where
you got back what, an hour early?
It was at least an hour early. Yeah. And
I thought you sitting there for a minute.
I did. I was thinking about it, and I was like, man, I feel like I'm going to weigh in the biggest bag that's been weighed in all week, so if somebody comes in and they catch them better than that, then I'll tip my hat to them. But, it's also kind of calculating the risk of staying out there in that heat and after, making a rough ride back and potentially losing 4 ounces. And I would have been devastated. I had lost by a couple ounces because I waited too long to get my fish back in healthy.
Absolutely. I mean, I listen. That's one of those times, like I come in early a lot of times because I ain't got nothing. So
I may have done that once before too.
That's got to be a great feeling dropping 17 and some change on them.
I've came in early and I'm like, this is the best I got, guys. I don't know. I'm done today.
Man, I've been blessed today. Let's let the chips fall where they may. It was just it was a special day that last day, man.
Now you're from over in Alabama, right?
Yeah. I live in Wetumpka. I grew up on Lake Martin, not Logan Martin, Lake Martin. So a lot of people don't know that they're different, but I've been here, I've been in this area over 20 years now. So this is home, and, went to school in Montgomery and got a job with the state in Montgomery. And that's when I started to learn the Coosa. I'd fished it a couple of times with my dad, but I'm right here in the heart, Lake Martin, Lake Jordan's the last one on the Coosa.
Yeah.
And then Eufaula's about an hour and a half south of me.
Now, Jordan's fishing really good this year. I've got some buddies that went down there and absolutely dropped some bags on them at Jordan from over here. I'm like, holy crap. It's been doing real well.
It has, maybe too well. It's getting a lot of pressure. It's the smallest one on the chain. But man, it's the spots are so healthy. I've been here long enough to watch them go through a couple of cycles where, we're catching the 4s and 5s there for a few years. It used to be, when I was fishing local tournaments, it wasn't uncommon. Most tournaments took, 22 plus to win 5 fish, and most of those were going to be spotted bass, if not all. I had seen some 25-pound bags, and then we went through kind of a down cycle there, but they have come back, and they're getting a lot of pressure now, as a lot of places, because forward sonar, it's a great place to do the forward sonar deal. But I tell everybody, the people getting in that are new to the forward sonar thing and they're trying to learn, I'm like, go to Martin first. They're not as smart. You'll have more fun. When you feel like you got it licked, then go to Jordan and find out what you really got.
and that's so true. I mean, I've got one trophy for big bass in my little office area here, and it's from Lake Martin. And I fished with Southern Bass Anglers for a couple of years, and our classic down there. And I catch a 270 something largemouth on a buzzbait first thing in the morning. I was like, okay, that's a good fish. And I'm weighing in, and there's 34 boats in this tournament, and I'm weighing in. The guy in front of me, he goes, I'm gonna weigh this largemouth. He goes, well, that's the big fish. And I looked at my partner. I said, I'm going to weigh mine for big fish. And it actually, I was like, there's no way. There's no way. Yeah. We were 6th place with 7 and some change. I mean, it's a fun lake. It's a fun lake. I don't know about this time of the year, but it'll you can catch a bunch of fish. They might be all small ones, but you can catch a bunch for sure.
You can. It's that's why they have a lot of the high school events there. It's a great place for the younger folks to go. I enjoy it myself. I mean, I know what I'm signing up for. I love just going to get bites, and it's where I grew up too. But it's a fun place. And there's some giants. I mean, my biggest came a few years ago. I caught one almost 9 pounds. I'll never beat that on Lake Martin.
Yeah, it's a good fish. Good fish.
But you're not going to see 20-pound limits very often on Martin. There's a small window of the year. Most of the time, 12 pounds, pretty good bag, 12 plus any time of year. So
yeah, somebody told us at that tournament, I think that they were talking about, like I said, 34 boats and 7 and some change was sitting in 6th place. That tells you the weights we had right there, right? And they said the tournament director come out and said the average bag brought in on Martin is like 7 or 8 pounds. It's not much. I mean, that's the average size of your bags brought in. So
yeah,
and like this,
it is what it is.
Yeah, you get those wintertime bags. Sometimes you get some pretty good weight in, and right there at the springtime. But it's just one of those. Like you said, it's a fun lake. It's got good ramps too. There's great places to put in. There's lots of fun to be had down there for sure. So how you get to fish Logan Martin quite a bit? Then I mean, I don't know how often you get to go up there and fish it yourself, but you fish it a lot with the NPFL. But you also get to practice.
You're gonna think I'm crazy, man. I was trying to think the last time I fished it. We did fish a team series there last year. Before that, I had fished it. I'd gone up there with my dad a couple of years before, and we fished 2 or 3 hours. Before that, it had been almost 10 years since I'd fished it. So fished, the last tournament I fished, I can't even remember when it was, but I'm just off the top of my head. It was around 10 years ago. It was an open in May, and I finished second. I just missed winning that one. So it's not a lake that I know really well, but apparently, it fits my style pretty good or something. I don't know, but it's been a good lake for me the last 2 big tournaments I fished. That's for sure.
Yeah. So how did you, with that being said, then how did you break it down to figure out how you were going to catch what you caught? Because I don't fish it a lot, but I fished it several times a year. And it's one of those lakes that Logan Martin is the lake that kicks my. I know they can be caught there. I've got buddies that catch them there all the time. Like it's just one of those things that kicks my teeth in.
Each lake on the Coosa is similar. They all, so I fish Jordan all the time for fun. Yeah. And like I mentioned, it gets a lot of pressure. They can be tough to catch, and there's some similar patterns on Jordan that you can apply to a place like Logan Martin. The thing about Logan, it's different than Lay is just full of docks. You got shallow docks, you got deep docks, you got creeks, you got main lake, you got, the whole lake's full of docks. You still got the grass bite. The grass is a little bit shallower than what you'll see on the lower Coosa. You don't have as much deep grass like you have from Lay to Mitchell to Jordan.
Right.
But you do have grass in the water that those fish will use. Brim beds are a big thing. They eat a lot of brim, a lot of big brim in Logan Martin. And that's how I nearly won the Open that year. We fished it in May. And I really felt like the brim bed deal was going to be in place. Spent a lot of time, researching. I did go up there before the cutoff, and I just spent most of the day idling, looking for brim beds, looking for some brush, things like that. And I think I left that night at like 9:30 and drove back home that night. Spent a full day, but didn't get to go anymore after that. But that was what I really thought I was going to be doing. I really thought I was going to target those big fish. There was a little bit of shad spawn in the morning when we started out, but it was over really quick because it was so hot.
Yes.
So I felt like the early bite, after practice, I thought it was going to be critical. I thought if you're going to get big bites, you got to get them in that first hour, and you can maybe narrow that down to 30 minutes because we had a little bit later takeoff. We weren't taking off we didn't start taking off till 6 o'clock, and it was good enough light to practice. I think we were able to start practice around 5:15, 5:20.
Oh, so absolutely. Yeah.
45 minutes when the bite is on and you got a quick shad spawn is a lot of time in bass fishing, especially if you're fishing quick. So I got some big bites on top in practice. And then it got to be just a real struggle trying to get bit later in the day. We got some rain right before practice started, a really good rain, 2 or 3 days worth. I think that storm had come through. I was out of town. I was fishing another tournament at the time, but I believe that the big tropical system came through, dumped a bunch of rain, kind of recharged the system. But after that, all through practice and all through the tournament, no rain, continuously hotter nights, hotter in the day, no wind, flatline current, just base level current, 1 unit late in the afternoon. And so I knew, like, hey, I got to catch them early. If I can get a couple of bites early, maybe I can grind out a couple of decent bites. Surely we can get a limit, throughout the rest of the day.
Right.
And that was happening in practice. It didn't happen for me in the tournament. I had one the second morning when I had the camera with me. That second morning, I had a big one. I had a great big one. Hit my pop-R. And it was almost like it was too excited and missed it, and I saw the fish roll on the side when it tried to eat it, and it just flat missed it. And that's why I like that bait. A lot of times when they're slapping at a bait, that smaller profile, they'll get it a little bit better. You got a better chance of catching them compared to like a spook or a buzz bait or something.
Absolutely.
But what ended up being the deal for me was the deep bite. And they weren't, it wasn't anything like, as far as the locations, they weren't really anything like crazy wild, like, where you would look. It was the typical stuff, typical places where you could look. Most of these places you could graph the fish because you could idle by the docks or you could idle over the points. Anything, everywhere I caught fish, for the most part, you could have seen those fish on, I use Garmin, clear view, down view. You could ride over them and see them. The frustrating part was they weren't active, and they were just sitting there. Because you had a really good early bite. Those fish feed really hard early in the morning. This time of year in Alabama, they eat a lot at night. So they'll feed all night long. Then they'll eat early in the morning. And then pretty much on the Coosa, they're waiting on the water to come on to give them a little boost to feed after that. Well, the water was 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep. They know that schedule better than they're better than the people they're putting on, man.
They do. And I was talking to one of the other anglers. It was funny. Was talking about, they were fishing in the upper section of the lake, and it's something we see a lot on the Coosa. But when they get in a routine of generating, say every day at around 2 or around 3, those fish know when that water's going to come on, or it's kind of like my dogs every day. They know when it's time to eat. And I walk in the house, and every day they're like trying to push me 15 minutes earlier to get to eat. And they saw that. They were like, man, these, they hadn't even turned the water on. They were telling me a story that up the lake. They were like, they hadn't even turned the water on, and all of a sudden the fish just started feeding. And I think if you get in the far upper reaches of the lake, I think they can even feel that when that pressure is building up on the dam and they're about to turn those.
Yes, sir.
They know.
Yep.
But yeah, you needed a trigger to get those fish to bite. And I was just really fortunate. I tried several different things because I've got these fish. I've idled over them. I'm seeing them when I troll over them. We couldn't use forward sonar.
Right.
I could see them on Clearview. I could see them on 2Ds. Just fish stacked up on these places,
sitting there,
and went through the whole gamut. The deep, everything everybody typically throws for deep fish. But one thing that I do on Martin, believe it or not, is we do a drop shot, and you can get some of those fish to bite a drop shot when they won't bite the big stuff.
Yeah.
And if there's a good fish there, you can get one to bite.
There you go.
I rigged one up, a little bit bigger worm than I typically use. At Martin, kind of have that mindset. I like to throw a big worm.
Right.
Fish are offshore when they're deep. Throw a big 11-inch C-Mac from net bait's what my favorite baits to throw when fish are offshore.
Okay.
But that's not what I put on drop shot. I used a big, long, straight tail 7-inch worm. Not a sponsored product, so I don't want to mention the worm, but pictures are out there and you can figure out who it is.
I got you.
But the first few places I pitched it at, when I rigged that bait up, first of all, there were brim or maybe small bass were hitting either the bait or the weight on the way down, like they were suspended, but it activated them. I got bites. My bait would stop on the way down, and then they wouldn't eat it, and it'd go to the bottom. And I'd leave it there just a few shakes or whatever, and I'd get a bite.
Right.
And this happened. First time I tried it, ended up happening about 3 or 4 times pretty quick, so I'm getting some action on this thing, but I can't get a hook in them to see if I'm even dealing with keeper fish,
Right.
And so I've got a little bottle of bait fuel that I keep on the passenger rod rack in my Phoenix right there in between. Yep. I was like, let's slap some bait fuel on there, see if we can get whatever this is. Let's see if we can get one to eat, see if we maybe get a keeper bite. And I mean, literally put it on there, rubbed it in, pull up and get next thing that looks kind of good, pitch it down in there, and the fish bites and I catch it, and it's a close to 2-pound largemouth. I'm like, well, it's not a giant, it's a solid keeper. It's a largemouth. And that's what started it all right there, I got a few bites, just trying to get bites, trying to find a way.
Yeah.
And then I really slowed down and started to try to figure out where those fish were setting up. And the key thing was finding that depth range that we're using. It seemed like if you found a piece of cover that was in the right depth range, that was a big part of getting around the better quality fish. They were, most of the time they were deeper than 15 and not any deeper than 20 for me. For the better quality fish. I could get deeper than that or shallower. The bigger fish were in that range.
That's what we noticed a couple of weeks prior to that. We had fished a little benefit tournament out there, and we were catching them on 15-foot diving crankbaits, pretty decent to start with offshore, overcast, and then the overcast went away and that bite just died.
Yeah.
But then we started finding that same range. It was in some kind of current areas we were finding them in, but it was like you couldn't pay for a bite when the sun came out, and it was just, it was unreal for that. But it was, like you said, in that same depth range. Once you figured out the depth range, you can kind of start playing the game. Then you kind of knew, okay, I can go hit this over here, that over there. Of course, by that time, as you well know, then the boat traffic picks up. It's over.
That's true.
It's over.
Yeah. The first 2 days wasn't too bad. We started practice on that Father's Day Sunday, and it was, it was wild. So I knew what it could look like. And that, but the Saturday it started early and it just ramped up from there. The funny thing is, Saturday was my big day. I caught the biggest bag, and that's not including the 4.5 pounder that I dumped right out of the gate. So it could have been even more. But we had 2 things that day that we didn't have the first 2 days of the tournament. We had clouds that morning, just partial clouds, kind of drifting in and out. But we also had a breeze. The first 2 days it was slick, calm. The sun just felt like it just jumped up in the sky and got on us like that. And that last day we had a little breeze, kind of moving things around, clouds moving in and out. And we also had that little bit of boat traffic. And I firmly believe that those fish, they decided to eat. They were there the whole time. I'm seeing them on the graph every time I go over them. And it was just a matter of whether you could get one to bite at a time. But I think that was the biggest thing. And those fish finally decided to eat a little bit once things got mixed up a little.
Yeah. When we went out there, we had that benefit tournament. My buddy Eric that's in the comments here, the week before that, we went with a guide trip, Jono's fishing. He has a YouTube channel. We went with him, and we were doing the offshore thing, but we're throwing big worms and like that boat. He would park us right in the middle of the boat traffic. I'm like, dude, this is wild. We sat there for hours just taking a beating, but we were catching good quality fish too. It wasn't bad. We crankbait, deep shaky head, heavy shaky head and stuff like that. But so, with the bites that you had, the weights that you had, I asked Hunter Bogman this last week, at what point, because this is where it gets me on the Coosa specifically, because I get a bite and I'm like, okay, I can get bit everywhere doing this particular pattern or whatever. At what point do you say, all right, I need to make a change in my lure because it's not working? Because you talk about getting top water bites, you started getting, shaky head or, worm bites, or then you go to a big, drop shot worm, whatever. How do you make that determination, and how much time do you give yourself with one particular lure before you go, all right, we're done with that, especially in the pro level, because that's where it gets really interesting to see.
Well, that's the biggest challenge as fishermen we all face all the time, is should I stay, should I go, should I change, should I not? And we're always, playing that game internally, and you're taking all the feedback you're getting, or the feedback you're not getting a lot of times, to try to make that decision. And we all struggle with that, at every level, trying to get that part right. I think for me, it was in practice, I just could not get a quality bite for the most part up in the day doing anything else. And that's how I ended up with the drop shot in my hand, because I could not get those fish to fire on anything else. I did get the second day was a really tough day, and I had gotten some fish to hit a flutter spoon, because I knew they were on these places, and they would, especially the spots, they would, they'll get out and roam a little bit and chase bait, and then they'll go back and set up on the structure.
Right.
And so, I was always looking for something I could throw from a distance, and preferably a power presentation to pick one of these big fish off.
Right.
I was able to get a couple to eat the spoon the second day that was so tough for me that helped. Just again, even the drops, both of those are reaction baits. Those are ways that you kind of trigger a response from those fish that they're really not active. They're hanging around. It's almost like, it's something crazy's going on. They just, they perk up and that you end up, triggering a bite. You could not sit there and keep catching these fish. That was one thing that I learned pretty quick.
Yep.
There's a bunch there. You pull up there, you get a solid bite pretty quick. And, but man, and I learned this on Martin this time of year. They do the same thing. There'll be a whole, they're not as big a fish, but same pattern. You pull up, there's a bunch in there. You catch one pretty quick, and this is using live scope, watching them, and they'll look at stuff a bunch, and you throw all kind of stuff in there. But once you've caught that first one, they're just not going to keep eating. In the fall, those same fish, they'll just keep eating. You just keep catching them until finally they're done. So I don't know if it's kind of a stress response that, when you catch, I don't know, but you could not keep catching them, even though they were there. You would, like Tennessee River, you throw in a school, you get a bite, you fire up the school, and
yes, sir.
It's the first bite that's always hard to get.
Yep.
In this situation, it was, if they were there and you were going to catch one, the first bite came pretty quick. It was the other ones that were hard to get.
Right. And that's what we noticed with that guide trip. It didn't take us but about an hour or two once we started getting bit to figure that out, is once you caught a fish, you might as well move. There wasn't much sense to stay on that same spot, pick up and move to a different spot, because they wasn't going to be a second or a third fish. You might catch you might catch two, but you wasn't catching that third one. That's for sure. It just made no sense. It makes sense, no sense. I don't know. Like I said, Logan Martin, it kicks my teeth in every time. Anyway, I don't mind. I don't care what anybody says. It's one of those lakes that it looks easy it looks like it'd be a dream place to fish all the time. And then it's like, I go out there and going, it dang, 5 fish for 6 pounds kills me every time, or say 8 pounds or whatever. So I was excited to see when a couple of you guys there at the end brought in some really good bags, and it was really, I thought it was going to be, a little tighter than it was at first. I'm like, man, that's some good weight sitting on the scales right there. And it was a good day. It was really good for you guys that brought it in.
Honestly, as tough as lake fish, like, it was impressive what the field caught on those 3 days that we fished. Those were, for this time of year, those first 2 days were probably some of the toughest conditions imaginable to fish the Coosa River, any Coosa River lake. And there were some good weights, even 14 up to, Bill had 17-10 that first day. I had almost 16. Some good solid weights for the Coosa with flatline current and high sun, and the water was bumping 90 degrees on the surface. So,
that
was impressive.
Yeah, y'all did. It was my first time actually getting to go to an NPFL weigh-in event, and Paul's been trying to get me to come. He's like, "Did you get out here?" And so he saw me. He's like, "Man, you picked the best day to show up." I'm like, "Well, unfortunately, I couldn't make it on Friday because of work, so I got to come out on Saturday and watch it. Brought my wife with me, but when we pulled up, I told my wife, I said, "This is going to be miserable up here." She's like, "Why?" I said, "Look at all these boats putting in." I said, "These guys are coming in here in an hour or two," and we got there at noon. And I said, it's fixing to be crazy trying to get back. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be getting back to the ramp like I thought it was going to be. Now, right. I'm sure down there about mid-lake, it was probably a little different. Like you said, you had to kind of cruise in from there. You obviously did because you gave yourself an hour time. When you came in, I was like,
it took me a very smart and safe move.
Yeah, I probably averaged running speed coming back. I probably averaged about 35 miles per hour. Felt like I was, sort of. It's kind of like when we fish up north, it's choppy. Yeah. You just ride it out, and I'm glad I had a good bag and mainly just trying to take care of those fish rather than having to push it, and
absolutely
take chances. But it was busy.
Nothing wrong with taking that, especially when you got that in the live well, and it's not hard to figure out pretty quick after the time you've been on the lake, knowing that's a good bag for that lake for sure. Right. And we'll change gears a little bit. Talk about the NPFL a little bit because obviously it's one of the three major leagues that that fish. How do you like the NPFL versus other things that you fished? And I'm not trying to get good or bad or anything, but how do you like that the way it breaks down? Because I follow a lot of the NPFL guys. Like I said, me and Paul talk every time we see each other. We got guys that love it. We got guys like, man, it's just not my cup of tea. How do you like fishing the events with the NPFL?
I've really enjoyed it so far. One of the things for me that's been enjoyable was the drive-through weigh-in, and it's been great. Of course, we didn't do that. The first time we didn't do that was Logan Martin. All the others we had a drive-through weigh-in, but we were able to pull up right at the stage in our boats. That's been a cool experience because you start to see the folks that come to the weigh-in. It's like a boat parade, and I've noticed people lining up that don't even come to the weigh-in stage. They're way up the line watching the boat parade, and I think that's pretty cool, and so I haven't done that in a few years now on the Bass Pro Tour. I enjoy the Bass Pro Tour format. I enjoy we say every fish, but we have they got to be a certain size now. Not every fish counts. I found that out at Grand Lake. Not every fish counts. I promise you. I caught way too many non-scorables. But
I was gonna say the non-scorables get you every dang time, man.
Man, everywhere I went, everything I tried, I'd find fish, and they weren't the right ones. But anyway, that's a story for another day. But I've enjoyed it. Both sides. Obviously NPFL, no forward sonar. I think for me, I'm more comfortable going into the event. That I've learned this in the past couple of years is either I can use it the whole event or I cannot use it the whole event, and that's just Greg. Other guys, different things, work for different guys, but I have learned that maybe mentally, and we talked about the decision making and things like that. So I'm totally comfortable with that. That's how I got started. That's how I cut my teeth. I did that most of my career, no forward sonar, and the way I caught the fish at Logan Martin was right back to the way I caught them before we had forward sonar. And so, it was more like, pitching around, feeling for the right spot, and
it was fishing,
using the electronics that you could use to get yourself there. And so, and we caught good bags that way, so you can still catch them. Would it have been nice to be able to pull right up there and look right at the spot before they made the pitch? Absolutely. But nobody else could either. And so it doesn't bug you that much because, nobody else in the field is able to use it either.
Right.
And it makes for some interesting approaches. The power fishing plays bigger. But I've enjoyed it, man. The folks are working hard over there for us. I know they are. And, Brad and Paul, I'm going to big out all the folks that I'm getting to know over there. They're media folks. They're compared to probably other leagues, they're working with what I would call probably more of a skeleton crew, but you got one person doing the work of five a lot of times, and they are getting after it, man. From daylight to dark. So give them all the props for that, and guys seem to enjoy it.
Yeah, I've got a buddy of mine, John Cox from Georgia. He introduced me to it, several years ago when it first started, and he was talking about the drive-through weigh-ins, and I remember being impressed with hearing them like helping guys who had flat tires and stuff like that you normally wouldn't hear hear happen, things like that. So it definitely it seems like a good group of folks, and they've always been real nice to the show, to our podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've all had pretty good lines of communication with them and stuff like that. There's a couple of questions in the comments, and guys in the comments, I'm not ignoring your comments. I'm waiting for the end. We've got one question we ask everybody on all of our podcasts, and I'll get to it in a minute, Greg. But there's one question I wanted to ask before we run out of time. On stage, you had talked about during your speech, you talked about 20 years of doing this, and you didn't know where you were headed with it, and that now you think this win means you're supposed to keep fishing. Were you considering stepping away from professional tournament fishing for a while?
Multiple times. Like I mentioned on stage, I had a good job with the state of Alabama with ADM. I was working in the rivers and reservoirs of Alabama, so I was getting to do dream work for a guy that likes to be outside and be on the water. But it wasn't bass fishing, and so we didn't have Gage yet. We lived modestly and decided to give it a shot, and let's give it a year, see what happens. And the year went pretty good. I didn't go out there and tear it up. I was still broke like a lot of folks trying to get started. And, but there have been multiple times, if we're going to chop it all down, there's been multiple times since that first decision to go out and give it a shot to, I didn't know what the next year held, what the next tournament held. And I am a Christian. I grew up, gave my life to Christ at a young age, rededicated my life as a teenager. Have I been a perfect Christian my whole life? Absolutely not. And I fell out of my faith at one point in my life, and I'm ashamed to admit that, but I'm also proud to say that that God, the Holy Spirit, was in my heart throughout that process and convicted me. And this whole 20-year journey in fishing has been sort of God's way of bringing me closer to Him, believe it or not.
Right.
And I was not supposed to get to do this full time. When I was broke, my parents were broke. I was not supposed to get to be a professional fisherman. I thought the highlight before that happened, I got to fish as a co-angler with Bassmaster in 2004. I thought that was the coolest thing. The closest I would ever get in my life to professional bass fishing was getting to fish with those guys that year. So I've been blessed beyond measure. But I've always, during those moments, it was important to me to go to God in prayer. You can talk to Him anytime. You have a relationship with Him. And it's like, Lord, you know what I want. You know what earthly Greg, you know what I want. I want to go fish. But I want your will to be done, whatever it is. And I can accept that. And each moment when I thought maybe I'm done in this fishing journey and it's time to, maybe do something else. I prayed that prayer, and I was like, first I was just so grateful for the opportunities I'd had in those years prior, wherever it was. And, I prayed, if it's your will, show me and let me know the direction you want me to go. And that's what I said on stage. This was just another moment to add to all the others in the past 20 years. And if anybody ever approaches me and wants to find out some of those, I can tell you specifically exactly when it was and what happened. But this was just another one of those moments that reaffirmed, when I was at that point of, God, do you want me to keep doing this? Is this where you want me to be? Or can I be more valuable? Or is there a direction, that I need to go? And at this moment in time, that was just kind of an exclamation point on, okay, this is where I need to be. Losing the 4.5 pounder right out of the gate on the final day on a tough lake, like you can't make that. You don't make that up. Typically, you do not make that up. And I thought all day I'll never make it up. And then every once in a while I'd get a quality bite, and I get down to, I've got 4 good ones in there, including the one over 4.5. And I'm like, man, if I get another close to 3-pound bite, like we got a shot,
Right.
I still had a little one in there.
Yeah.
Pull up to one of those key places, and I get the bite. And it's almost as soon as I felt the bite, I knew that was the one we needed. And I got the bite that did it right there. You know, as it turned out, it would have been awesome to come in with almost 19 or whatever it would have been, but we had enough. You know, and just so great. This is a day I'll never forget, because the way it started versus the way it finished,
Absolutely. Just to hear somebody say that on stage, to be self-aware enough to know that, looking for that affirmation, like you said, of something going, this is what I meant to do. I took a lot from that when you said that, because we all go through that in life. We wonder, we're doing the right stuff, we're making the right decisions, and on a stage where you're paying to play, you could be doing other things. I'm in a job situation where I'm like, it's what provides, food on the table, and it's one of those ones you just can't walk away from. So it's one of those things, to hear somebody be that self-aware and going, yep, that was what I needed. The thoughts going through your mind, it just kind of, it was one of those questions I wanted to make sure to ask. And we're closing in on that, the last, few seconds of the show. And I don't want to keep you any longer than we have to, because I do have a couple of questions. Somebody wants to know, we were talking boat safety earlier. Do you run a boat leash, a motor leash on your boat?
I don't. I've considered it. I don't. I don't. I just
No, it's no judgment. I don't have one.
I won't say I didn't feel like I needed it because I hit something one time on the Delaware River that should have destroyed the back of my boat and taken it off, and it put a hole in my nose cone of a Mercury about that big, and I ran another 15 miles after that.
Wow.
So, but yeah, I totally appreciate the guys that decided to put it on there. Absolutely.
Just so we were talking earlier, and somebody in the comments asked that question. All right, the last question I'm going to ask you, we ask every guest, every visitor to the show, do you believe in Bigfoot? Our mascot for the show is a stuffed Bigfoot, and then one of the viewers, my buddy, he got me a picture of me standing on a boat with Bigfoot at Logan Martin. Believe it or not, I don't know if I can show it in the camera or not. Right there.
There you go.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
We were on Logan Martin. So we ask everybody, do you believe in Bigfoot?
I'll say with the things we're learning these days, anything is possible.
I like it.
That's a solid answer.
I like it. Well, Greg, I'm not going to keep you longer, man. I really appreciate you stopping by and talking to us. And you're welcome to come on the show anytime. Been a great guest, And if you need anything, reach out. We're out here for you, Fish North Georgia. All us guys with the show. If you ever need anything, man, we really appreciate it.
Awesome. Tony, Tim, thank y'all for having me on. Appreciate it, guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good luck in the future. Y'all got some big ones coming up. I'll be excited to see those.
All right. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, guys. We've got to the end of the show. Y'all had some great questions tonight. I had fun, Tim. I know we've we were worried about that first hour and a half going, hey, we're gonna be able to keep everybody entertained for a little bit. But y'all did great in the comments.
As history's headed, sometimes when we just get on here and start talking, they roll.
Yeah, it was a really good show. Had a lot of fun with it, guys. We're gonna call that a night. Tim, thank you so much for stepping in tonight. I don't think I could have pulled off an hour and a half by myself. So
that would have been the most intimidating thing I've probably done in a long time. I'd been like, I'm by myself. This is not gonna work.
Hour and a half of listening to myself talk. I don't think I could do it. So, man, I appreciate it. Y'all have a good evening. Make sure you check out Tuesday night. I think Clint's doing that show. I don't know who his guest's gonna be, but he's by himself. He'll have a guest on. Thursday night, Tim, you're not gonna make it, but it'll be me, Danny, and whoever. I guess Kevin will be there, and whoever else we decide to have on.
Yeah, it's the wife's birthday, so we're gonna carry her out on Thursday.
Absolutely. The funny thing is, wait a minute. What's the date on Thursday? What date is that?
The 9th.
Crap! I may not be here. My wife's birthday is Thursday.
Oh, they both July 9th, huh?
All right. Well, anyways. I may not
Danny will be back Thursday, and Kevin, so we're still good.
I had Friday being the 9th because we're leaving for ICAST on Friday. I thought Friday was the 9th all day today. Dang it. Okay, I may not be here Thursday, guys. Anyway, y'all have a good evening. We'll see
y'all from ICAST. Come see us down there.
Oh, no show next week on Monday. I'm pretty sure nobody's doing shows next week. Obviously, we're going to be out of town, so y'all take a break.